Toyota or Lexus, here specifically for the small and compact SUVs. In this comparison episode, we'll take a look at the Toyota Yaris Cross versus the Lexus LBX. They both sit on the same platform. Then on the next platform would be the Toyota C-HR and the Toyota Corolla Cross versus the Lexus UX. We have them in the pre-facelift and in the post-facelift version here for you with my colleague as well. And the Toyota RAV4 and the Lexus NX, they sit once again on the third different platform here in this review. And that's why they, on the one hand, come very close, but of course they have their specific differences. What are those differences and which vehicle should you actually go for? Which one would you pick? Tell me in the comments later on. And I also advise in which country or in which market it is more clever to go for a specific product here. It will be very interesting. Let's go.
This is here the updated Toyota Yaris Cross. It is actually the most sold Toyota in Europe. In 2023, over 200,000 pieces were sold. Why is it? Why is it so popular in Europe actually? And by the way, my father-in-law has one of this, the pre-facelift one. So maybe at the end of the review, I can tell him, get the updated one, or is it not that important? We'll find out. Everything for you. Thomas Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go. The GR Sport, this is a special sporty line, the one I have right here, together with the gray, yeah, fitting cloth color as well. And the GR Sport here has this honeycomb design in the sporty racing style. So yeah, makes it a little bit spiced up, so to speak. Headlamps, you can also get optional matrix LED for the Yaris Cross. And the wheels start 16-inch. An option you can get even up to 18-inch, the ones you can see here. The crossover cladding here is really large. And the length it's really small, actually 4 meters 18 or 165 inches. But how much space will we have in the interior, we'll find out soon. Here in the GR Sport, together with the gray, I think it's a very cool design. Daring, but not too daring. That's at least my take. What do you think? Also important, what are the major upgrades now? First of all, NVH, noise, vibration, harshness. That's the expression in the automotive industry for what you hear on the inside from what's happening on the outside, like wind noises, rattling noises, everything and so on from the engine. And they've upgraded that. So first of all, they have now an acoustic front windshield. That's the first big upgrade. Then they have thicker side windows. That's the second biggest upgrade. And some other smaller improvements. And I'm really looking forward if I notice that while driving. Also, the engine is supposed to be better insulated from the interior cabin. So this will all make the car and the drive a little bit more silent. At the same time, you get more power. Under the hood, you have a 1.5 liter 3-cylinder hybrid. There we go, no gas struts, so we put it right here. This is it, and either 116 horsepower or now also a version with 130 horsepower, that's new. 10.7 seconds is the acceleration figure for the front wheel drive, and you also can get optional electric all-wheel drive, so you have an electric mode at the rear axle then. That is then half a second slower than the front wheel drive version. However, this front wheel drive version in comparison to the predecessor is a second quicker than in the overall acceleration figure. So this will help you especially like when overtaking. Also like this mid-range, acceleration thing, especially for overtaking on the motorway and some. This is also something that Toyota says they have fixed now or made it a little bit quicker. That's a little bit more comfortable for you to drive it because yes, obviously they are not the most powerful and sporty engines in the world, but they at least try to make it a little bit better. The overall hybrid drivetrain has also been updated, so probably we will also get a little bit better mileage. In the shade here, you can better see the shape of the vehicle. That's awesome, right? And also here, the rear light strip. I think it looks really cool. It has like an inbuilt rear wing, but then you can see the light signature when it's on. It's just outside, but not inside. A little bit deceiving, isn't it? Then the GR Sport has this massive, it's like a small SUV and it's like a huge diffuser sports car style. Look at that with the honeycomb structure. Wow. 170 kilometers now is, by the way, the top speed for this one. And you get the GR Sport badge. And the big question is, of course, what does fit in the trunk? 400 liters. We have 320 actually for the all-wheel drive model because you lose a little bit, because of the all-wheel drive system. And this is a very interesting splitter here. But first of all, the measurements quickly. This is 1 meter or 40 inches in width, and this is here 80 centimeters or 31 inches in length. Not too bad indeed. And this here, then the split here, yeah, you can do it like this underneath if you want to store it like this, or you can also put the whole thing out. That would also be possible, and yeah, they are not too heavy actually, so yeah, I mean, why not? Unusual, but why not? Underneath could be also used for a full spare tire if you like that. And the way you put that one in, then you have not such a high loading still, or maybe you could put something underneath and so on. This cover here has pro and con. On the one hand, you see like it's like wobbly, and what about the quality? But then actually one of you told me, and you know, I'm also constantly learning by the comments, for example. That's why I spend so much time of my daily time with reading your comments. That's really true, because I just love to keep like the interaction and actually also learn, because there's sometimes like some good ideas. Because someone of you said, yeah, this might look weird and wobbly, but then again, when you put something underneath, it's flexible, it's not hard, so something higher can still fit in there without this being pushed up too much, and it also holds the luggage underneath tight. So that is the pro thing about that. And then I can also reach over, since it's quite flexible, like this, and I can also fold the seats 1/3, 2/3, but you can see here, this only folds flat when I put the front seats in the front, like this, then they fold down, and then I can put them back again. You have to do it with some vehicles like this, put them back again, that's fine, yeah, just a little bit more work. Key fob looks like this, GR badge here on the side. This 30 here is just the number of the vehicle on this event. It's not there for the customer actually, but also looks racing style, right? Then door closing sound. Yeah, I really love it from the exterior, but that's obviously something that Toyota is not paying attention to at all. Maybe if they watch a little bit more Autogefühl, then they would also advise the engineers to upgrade the door closing sound, right? So best greetings to Japan. This one here, by the way, is built both in Japan and also in France. In France and for the European market, huge plant. I heard it's even the most produced car model in France at the moment, not from one of the French manufacturers. That's also, but I mean, like, considering they build like over 200,000 per year, that's really reasonable. Wow. Then inside of the doors, it's structured somewhat, but hard pack. Oh, yeah, it's really hard pack. And then here also, this is like a fabric covering, but it's not soft underneath. It's hard underneath, but at least a fabric covering. Then like this whole thing where you have the handle like hidden in a way. Kind of, yeah, weird design, honestly, a little bit, isn't it? Door pocket also not covered at all from the inside, but nice GR entry badge, and also the GR Sport badge at the floor mats, so that's cool. And also then here in this trim, GR Sport steering wheel, some red contrast stitches, real buttons at the steering wheel to control everything. That's also cool. Right side, for example, also for the cruise control. And one of my favorite seats here, they are pretty cool. So here in the GR Sport, you get microfiber, and the red shines through from the background. That's pretty neat, right? GR Sport badge is also embossed right here. And let's take a seat, see how comfortable they are, because again, it's a small SUV, but then you think European roads, sometimes it's narrow and traffic is increasing and so on. But at the same time, as a tall person, you have good seating comfort here. That's lovely. I really like that. And yeah, when you look at the cockpit and so on, and there's this, GR Sport trim, I understand why my father-in-law actually picked this one, also in the GR Sport trim, because you sit down and you immediately feel like, oh wow, it's like I get in a good mood. I like that. I want to drive it. It's just fun in a way. That's cool. I was so serious when I said, oh, it's just fun. Let me repeat it. It's just fun. That was more nicer, right? Sorry, I'm German. Then here, 189, 6'2", still have some headroom left. Yeah, I'm on the joke side today. Michelle is laughing all the time behind the camera. I also have to be serious a little bit. And yeah, I would say we take a look at the cockpit now, Michelle. Maybe walk around. All right, now I'll use the force to open the door for Michelle. And the cockpit perspective, really cleaned up overall, I would say. This is here so much soft touch also on the dashboard here in the structure. also here it's not entirely hard. Glove box is also dampened. Yeah, I like that. Well done, Toyota. Remember, this is also a sister model to the Lexus LBX, by the way, and what we see here, especially in the GR Sport trim, is maybe not worse at all. Upgrades here, especially for the infotainment and the instruments. Infotainment starts 9-inch, or optional this one here, 10.5-inch. You see here the wireless Apple CarPlay, and besides that, of course, Android Auto is available. And here I usually prefer the dark mode for the infotainment system that looks a little bit more elaborated. And here they have a manual volume jog as well. Digital instruments would start 7-inch, but just in the middle, and this is the full digital instruments, 12.3-inch, also new here with the upgrade. And you can optionally also get a head-up display. AC unit, here you control the fan speed, and my favorite, that I can still turn something and not everything via touch and so on. That's good actually. And also for the seat heating. Oh look, hey, listen to that. Clicking sounds here for the seat heating, 2 levels. In the front there's also inductive charging pad. It's not cooled, however, as far I don't see any cooling holes at least, so that also says here that it might overheat indeed to USB-C chargers as well. Then here there's like the shifting here. B mode is rather, by the way, to use the engine brake indeed. Then you can also trigger an EV mode, but that is like you prefer to drive electric, maybe like in the city or something, but doesn't make too much sense. Usually leave it in auto mode and that's it actually. Cup holders are not adaptive. This is all hard pack, not the best maybe there. Interesting is that the under the armrest there's like a split, and does it work smartphone wise? Yeah, that also would work actually. That's maybe not the best idea. It's time for comments. Thomas in the rear seat with the time code. Here, hard pack at the rear doors, also nothing covered here at all. And then that's the thing, you know that probably you already taken from my comments that I really like this vehicle, but the only thing it does not offer, but it's also a short vehicle, is rear legroom, not too much. But I mean, considering the length of this vehicle and that I can comfortably sit here as a tall adult in the front, you see here when I put my knees forward, but when I just put my legs like a little bit outward here, it still somewhat works. And also headroom wise with 189, 6'2", no problem at all. So maybe not for tall adult proof, but you see here when legs are like this, then it somewhat works. In the middle you could also sit actually, and you can also pull this one thing only down like as a ski hatch, and then you have hardback cup holders. I mean, it's an interesting idea, right? Isn't it? So maybe unusual, but okay. And I mean, when the front seat is pushed a little bit more forward like this would be more realistic. Maybe that also works. You can drive the vehicle more or less with 4 taller persons. It's okay, but in the middle part is like, just maybe for a shorter trip. Still, the usage of space overall is excellent, I really have to say. Then of course we gotta drive it, and later on tell you more about consumption and also the price. Interesting detail, when the ignition is on and I switch between the auto headlamps and the daytime running light, see the lower part there, this is only active when there are the auto headlamps and the car is actually on. So that looks also cool with this vertical signature, and even more interesting, here the turning indicator in the front then replaces with the vertical signature. And in the top matrix LED trim, you can see here also cascading turning indicator in the rear. Wow. And the second exterior and interior, if you don't want to go for the GR Sport, this is here a Premier Edition, so also a higher trim level. And Urban Khaki is this vehicle color here, something different, mint green something. And you see the non-GR Sport version, he has a different grille then in the top and also in the lower part. Interesting grey contrast here. I mean, this is also a nice choice, isn't it? And this one is also equipped with the contrasting black roof, but you can also get unicolor, for example, vehicles. Of course, more colors are available. And in the rear, the most significant change is once again the lower part, where you don't have this sporty diffuser side, but more a plain look. But this is also good because no fake exhaust at all. So I really second that. And then let's take a look at the interior right here, because steering wheel seats are a little bit different. So this being not the GR Sport, you can see the steering wheel is, let's say, a little bit more simple. And also the seats here then in fabric. By the way, all the seats are animal free. So the slick surfaces you see here is a high grade leatherette with very good quality indeed. So this is then here the fabric leatherette mix, whereas the GR Sport would be microfiber leatherette mix. And yeah, let me take a seat here to test the comfort in comparison. And the ergonomics are the same actually, just the steering wheel by the way and the shifting lever, that is still animal content, but they will change it eventually, maybe in a couple of years, or with the all new models they already began that. And to be very specific here, which one of the seats here, the fabric seat or the microfiber seat, might be better in summer or winter? I feel in winter time probably the microfiber seat is a little bit more cozy, I would say. In summertime it depends. On the one hand, a fabric surface can even be a little bit more breathable than the microfiber. Then again, the microfiber is perforated. But the more crucial point is that here with the fabric seat, this upper area here is in leatherette, whereas this upper area here with the microfiber seat would also be completely in microfiber. And that's why this upper area can be kind of sweaty in summertime. And so the microfiber seat also has an advantage in summertime. So overall, both are great, but I would rather tend with the microfiber seat, or then a very base fabric seat will also be available. That will also be just fine. Well, if you couldn't decide for a specific color, you just take them all. Like this. Welcome to Thomas's driving lounge with the Toyota Yaris Cross. Here the updated version. Also we're driving the 130 horsepower version, the new upgraded hybrid one, more power now. And cool thing is, all silent. We drive in the EV mode because we have some battery buffer left at the moment. And so when I'm just easily cruising here, maybe like city, rural environment and so on, it's totally ease. You also hear that like the additional EV sound is generated on the exterior, you also hear on the interior. It's maybe, yeah, we actually hear that as well. And then when I'm driving a little bit quicker, then it's actually gone. And also when I'm a little bit more on the throttle, then the combustion engine hops on. I can also see it here in this digital RPM meter. And so it always constantly switches back and forth. And at the end of the driving part, I can also then give you a consumption figure. But so far, the Toyota hybrid systems, they are very reliable and they also run very efficient. That's the cool thing. So yes, you can go to different driving modes here. For example, there is this EV mode, for example. But at the moment, it says like unavailable during warming up. You can stress the EV mode a little bit more by that. But still, when it's not available, then it still won't work. So not sure how much sense is there in this separate, yeah. Now it automatically switches. I was off the throttle, rolling over this bump. Now I'm in the EV mode again. And what I want to show you initially when I'm driving, there it is, like above 25, 26 kilometers an hour, then there is this, like this EV chimer here is gone. I'm not sure if you can pick it up on camera. There it is. A little bit quicker. There, it's gone. Because then at a certain speed, the rolling noise from the tires, it's louder anyways. And there's also another drive mode selector here. There I can switch to this power mode, eco mode, normal mode. There it is. And yeah, by that, you have a little bit more response from the throttle, for example. Yeah, you can pick that when you want to accelerate and so on. And I think they also picked these new, nice, modern visualizations for that. It's very interesting, by the way, that here the GR Sport version does have somewhat of a different setup. That means the steering is a little bit more direct, and I think it's really crisp, you know, I really like it. Look at that. So here in the slalom way, it's very nice to control, has a great size, and here there are no dead angles in the steering. Every command is precisely transported to the road. And this GR Sport version also has somewhat of a sportier setup from a suspension. So it's not only a design line. They really, because I specifically asked them for that, they really did some slight changes then also to how it drives actually. This is also equipped with 18-inch wheels here. That means that's a sportier setup. And that gives me a nice and direct feeling. You do feel you sit a little bit higher since it's a small SUV in contrast to just a small normal hatch or something. So this difference is being felt. However, when I'm driving over some bumps here and so on, it's not that I would have it's like the urban khaki, the other launch color. So there it is. So at the same time, I don't feel like a huge difference that it would be like too sporty or too stiff or something. Let's do an acceleration right here. So from 0, and let's also put in the power mode, and let's see, 10.7 seconds. It says not sure, I won't reach 100 here, but let's just see how it goes. Let's go. Plop, that's 80. It's enough for now. It's actually quite good, and yeah, definitely more powerful than before. And they actually really worked that over the whole, RPM curve and so on. You always have more power available, also while overtaking and so on. That's actually quite nice. Here now a little bit bumpier. Yeah, you do feel it, especially with the 18-inch, but I think it's still okay somewhat. If you want more comfort, you have two possibilities. A, stick with smaller wheels. B, don't pick the GR Sport. However, my estimation is that getting smaller wheel size will do more for your comfort than just not getting the GR Sport, you know what I mean? I think overall the setup is really nice. It feels like a fun, small SUV. That's what they definitely achieved. And, I had this feeling initially when I just got the looks of this vehicle, and it really delivers what it promises. That's actually a very, very cool thing to have. Now it's some potholes here. Yeah, you do feel it when the road gets a little bit rougher, that it's not like a, like large adaptive suspension vehicle or something. That's not happening. But still, the main purpose of that is to feel agile and also good in the city and so on. And that's working very well. Also, nice sound when it's really tight here. Nice sound when I put in the turning indicator. That's fun. And well, you have the 3-cylinder petrol engine in here as base for that hybrid. And the fun thing is that the 3 cylinders, they always sound cooler somehow than the 4 cylinders, don't they? So that's definitely also something to consider. And by the way, you maybe sometimes hear this speed chime for the EU market. It is mandatory, but there is a way actually to deactivate that, and it's a little bit they don't get any hotkeys or anything for that. That's not their philosophy. You have to hold them. Here, select settings. Just press OK one time, then go to RSA and then turn it off, and then the speed chime is actually off. And here we can do acceleration one more time. Let's close that for you. Let's see, and let's go. A little bit of spin in the front. That's 100 kilometers an hour. So, yeah, I mean, decently enough, definitely. Yeah, a little bit of wheel spin right there, but that's totally fine. You see, it was still very well to control also, even when we were accelerating out of this corner. And now some motorway driving. We once again switch to the power mode. I will delay the getting onto the motorway here a little bit, that we can start directly here from a certain speed. And this will be 40 to 120 kilometers an hour. Let's go. That we can really score 40, like very, very slightly uphill. And let's go. That's 90. I have to stop here. So this is 40 to 90 kilometers an hour. Very nice, yeah, but due to that I can do some more 80 to 120. Let's go. That was 80 to 115. Also had to cancel that for safety reasons. But yeah, it is not the sportiest vehicle, of course. But considering now, definitely quicker than before, so I like the power upgrade. Good to have the 130 horsepower. I would definitely go for this version here. Below 100 kilometers an hour, below 60 miles an hour, it's also okay from the wind noise. But when you drive a little bit quicker, like here now at 110 kilometers an hour, something like that, like 65 miles an hour or something, then the wind noise is picking up, not necessarily from the mirrors, but here from the B pillar actually. So yes, they have some new insulation measures, and they help that it's better than before. Still, I have to say, here at 120 kilometers an hour, like 65, 70 miles an hour, not ideal. So I had so much fun driving. It's a little bit calmer, sportier, great city driving, great hybrid drivetrain. But then again, yeah, as for the noise insulation, it's not the ideal thing if you drive motorway high speed. That's the one catch it has. But yeah, you just have to know that actually. This is like the racetrack Mallorca. We have always, we've been driving there a couple of times. We have a couple of reviews with the racetrack here in Mallorca as well. Nice track. So here now lane change. That's awesome. Like that. Wow. Like the driving characteristic, how it handles is awesome. It's really awesome. Blind spot monitor is also, by the way, in the side mirrors, and here on the right side, I feel I'd rather drive 100 kilometers an hour with this car. So here on the right side, right thumb, I activate the cruise control, and let's see how smooth it also reacts. Oh, I set it to 120 now. It accelerated to 120 again. So now again, there we go. So here, active lane keeping is also active now. More standard assistance systems now. This is also inside the upgrade, and here motorway is slightly bent to the right, and you see here very smooth. Oh, does it work with touch or with, let's see, no, it's no capacitive. So yeah, the steering needs some movement that still knows you're there. So it's still level 2, but I feel this is very good as for the, see, there's no hectic movements and so on. So very satisfied with that. And not sure if one of the cameras does pick up the blind spot monitor. It appears in the side mirror. And then when I hit the turning indicator, I get an additional flashing of that blind spot monitor. So I like that they put more standard from the assistance systems, and they also work in a very flawless way. Yeah, my most favorite feature is really like the seats here, also great for tall people, and every lane change is so much fun. So I'm surprised how great and agile this car is handling. The only catch is the wind noise at higher speeds. Even though they did these insulation measures, they could not achieve it that it's really very silent on the motorway. That's not happening yet. And I could do the lane change all day. And the other thing, the catch for tall persons, so here my right knee, it does work, but it's kind of narrow between the steering and the middle console. It directly fits in, but that's about it. So these are the only two catches. Other than that, here for a small SUV here, it's really so much fun in driving, and I really like it as a small car choice overall. Hybrid drivetrain, of course. One of the big things here is always, what about the consumption? But before we talk about consumption and final conclusion and so on, we will quickly drive here the non-GR Sport model, because Toyota said, as you maybe remember, that the steering and the suspension is a little bit different with the GR Sport model. And yeah, let's just try to find out if that is any different actually. So, of course, the base feeling is more or less the same. We also have 18-inch wheels mounted here, so we can very well compare. And let's see then how it turns out when I'm running over these speed bumps, for example, and when the road is a little bit uneven and so on. Steering wheel feels a little bit different because it doesn't have the perforation. And here, yeah, maybe slightly different indeed. It's a little bit like when, these, let's see if it also changes in the driving mode. That doesn't seem to do anything, but there are a lot of vehicles that when you change the driving mode from normal to sport, then the steering characteristic changes a little bit, and that's somehow it feels. So indeed, the GR Sport steering feels a little bit more progressive, I would say. That's my impression. It's not that this one is bad at all. It also has no dead zone area and so on, but definitely. Yeah, here I feel it more. I mean, there is some command, but I feel like when I do like this with the GR Sport, it already would do more. So the progressiveness, let's call it that way, that is a little bit better with the GR Sport. So steering, I would say I really like more with the GR Sport, both for sporty driving and also for comfortable driving. Suspension-wise, it's really tough to say. I really hopped from car to car now. To really get you the best experience, best difference. But Michelle, what would you say? Do you feel any difference in suspension as a passenger? it's really tough to tell, you know. So maybe here, like in this blop blop, and then this bump here. It's maybe a little bit softer, but it's not the world, you know. It's not that we say, hey, the GR Sport is rather uncomfortable, sporty in a way, and so, and this one isn't. No, I would rather say that they do come close. Maybe it's slight difference, little difference, but the bigger difference will definitely be, as I expected, when you pick smaller wheels. So GR Sport, you can definitely go for it. You don't lose comfort. Yeah, maybe there's a slight difference. And if you want more driving comfort, then it would definitely need to be just smaller wheels. That's the way you can also individualize that. Pricing, well, here in Europe, they are not that cheap. Like you get some entry levels in the US from Toyota. So here, 29,000 euros up to around 40,000 euros. For that size of a vehicle, it's of course quite expensive, but it's only when like all-wheel drive, highest trim, GR Sport, and so on and so on. You can also get some mid-trim level vehicles. So yeah, it's not cheap in a way, but other cars are not cheap at all. Car prices have risen in general. And what's also really good here with Toyota, they always score very good results in reliability rankings. So you can very well also not only lease one, but actually also buy one without worrying that it will break down or something. And consumption, something between 4 and 5 liters on 100 kilometers, so like 55 mpg US, 65 mpg UK. So of course not that much, quite efficient, but it's also a small vehicle. And recently, for example, with the Skoda Octavia, which is a way larger vehicle, is only MHEV, mild hybrid, we scored something similar actually. So yeah, but still you can be satisfied. It won't cost you much money as for the fuel, that's for sure. And also interesting that in the statistics of how often we drive all electric is most of the time that we drive more than half of the time we drive electric. And that's also of course good, also as for the CO2 output and maybe like inside the city less fumes and so on and so on. And then, yeah, what would I tell my father-in-law? The upgrades are definitely very nice with the more power and, you know, some more refinement on the interior and so on. That's definitely cool. It's not exactly a reason to ditch the previous one, like the pre-facelift. There the gap is not too large, I would say, but definitely another reason to pick this one here as a small SUV. I think the overall performance is very decent. With this vehicle here, Lexus is going against the trend because Audi is dropping the Q2 and the A1. Mercedes is dropping the A-Class and the B-Class. The premium manufacturers say goodbye to the small segment, whereas Lexus says, hey, we're going to offer a Lexus here for around $30,000, pounds or euros, at least in the base version. Does that work? How Lexus is the all-new LBX? We're going to find out with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go here with the front, which is typical Lexus design, I would say. Maybe a little bit more drawn back, not as dramatic as the sedans or something, but you still have this shape right here and then this rather open grille. This is here ruby red, the very striking red color, and a nice daytime running light design with this chrome accentuation. It looks a little bit crossover SUV-ish, however I can already tell you so far that the seating position and the driving is more hatch-alike, but we're going to find out more about that. Wheels in 17, or these ones here are the optional 18-inch wheels. And the length here is indeed only at 4 meters 19 or 165 inches, so it's a tiny Lexus indeed. You can also get a contrasting roof here in black at this point. Does it, by the way, remind you of a Toyota model? We'll talk later about that. A very clean rear design here with a light strip going all across. Top speed is 170 kilometers an hour, 105 miles per hour. Is that enough for the German Autobahn? Yeah, in most cases yet. And also it's a tiny vehicle, maybe not thought for like high-speed Autobahn and so on. Interesting technology-wise is that with that suspension on the rear axle, if you have the front-wheel drive model, then you only get a torsion beam in the rear. However, if you go for the all-wheel drive model, a little bit increased weight, then they went for a double wishbone in the rear, supposed to give you more comfort. At the same time, the chief engineer of Lexus told me that he would actually go for the front-wheel drive version only due to, some less weight and therefore more driving agility. One more feature we can show you. Leah will assist us. Yeah, she's doing the wiper. Here, look at that. In the very front there's a small nozzle. And that means the nozzle is integrated in the wipers itself, actually. There we go, she activates the wipers. Now you can see it's really smooth. It doesn't get sprayed on the windshield, but it's really coming out of the wipers itself. So that's of course a better wiping function. Yes, we know it's not a new thing, but for this segment it is actually quite rare. Now I've put the car in the shadow for you, that you can better see the turning indicators or the hazard lights. They look quite cool in the front, don't they? By the way, here our shooting location today is in Valencia, so best greetings to all our Spanish friends. You maybe know that we also have a Spanish language channel with a direct translation voiceover, if you're interested in that. Here in the background, this nice water and so on, this is the Ciudad de las Ciencias. I hope that was the correct thing. So it's like the city of arts and science in Valencia. A very impressive thing here with museums, these water basins, and we got an exclusive allowance actually. So Lexus has organized that we can put the car right here. Usually it's not allowed to go with the cars here. So we also have a very nice shooting location for you. What? This is the rear turning indicator. I think here when they say, hey, we want to present you a small premium vehicle, should have been a little bit more effort here, right? Okay, and I also had my Jar Jar Binks moment. So what I also want to show you here, design-wise, look at that, how the design line goes in there, very central. So this requires a lot of effort when doing the tools for the vehicle to be able to produce this. This is the Lexus key fob, like with any other large vehicle, only that this is a tiny one. And then here you can see these door handles. They don't give you a haptic feedback. It's just when you press them behind, they come a little bit towards you. So it's kind of like this very smooth process. And then door closing sound. That's very solid, like that. We open the doors and then they use, you know, some, it's not entirely hard, but it's not super soft on the top part. Here, this is a little bit softer. This is like a leatherette covering. However, I have to say on the side, they don't use the highest grade of leatherette. So I would prefer a little bit higher quality grade from the leatherette here. Then, this is also interesting. You just press it here to open the doors. It's like this electric mechanism also to make it smooth and easy. If it would fail at some point, then you pull it. This is then the manual opening. Then interior, different trims are available. This trim here is completely animal free. It's called Premium in the UK or Emotion in Germany. Or the Elegance trim will also be animal free. And then you can get, for example, also this new material on the steering wheel. And this is pretty cool because it looks better. It feels actually also better and softer. Also underneath the material, you can touch it in. It's pretty cool. And Toyota and Lexus, with this new material, they have actually said that it has less abrasion, so it is also more durable. And the seats, this is also a leatherette here, also with perforation. It's available with or without perforation. Here then without the perforation on the top part, some contour stitches on the inside. Yeah, that looks actually quite fancy and also is supposed to set it apart from its Toyota counterpart. And then seating position, what they did here is, it looks crossover-ish, but the seating position indeed is like, you know, small hatch seating position. So they want to give you more hatch driving feeling. Headroom with 189 or 6'2", still a lot of headroom left, no problem. You get along as a tall person. Just here to the middle console, it gets quite narrow, but then again, they also have this soft leatherette cover here that you don't damage your knee. The steering itself, up and down, in and out, with a smooth process to adjust. So how premium is it here? All hardpack, no covering on the inside. Yeah, that could be better. Then again, even the BMW 5 Series in the new generation has hardpack at the inside of the door pockets nowadays. Yeah, maybe not the best trends for premium interiors. What else do we have here? Look at that middle console. In the front part we have inductive charging pad. Then there's also another place where you could theoretically put your smartphone, but maybe not ideal. Cup holders are adaptive here. Then you have this step system for the gear selection. Here a button for EV mode only, but usually you leave this hybrid system in the auto mode, and the vehicle picks it itself. Here also everything with the same leatherette covering. You can slide this one backward and open this one. Yeah, maybe not the best solution, but it works. Here another cup holder, you can also pull it out and then you have more space for clutter underneath. Interior cockpit overview, what I really like is that we don't see too much high gloss and not so much hard packed plastic. This is soft touch. Then here, this is also soft touch with the contour stitch here as well. And also these inserts here, and also this is a matte atmosphere. So that's actually what I like. Screen 9.8 inch, so we can also only say 10 inch. Instruments start with the base version 7 inch smaller, but this is then full digital 12.3 inch. And in the instruments you can also change around the view a little bit. The weird thing is just that you control it here, but what you do, you don't see really in the instruments, but in the head-up display. I do appreciate manual climate control here with a physical interface. Just the vent strength here, or the fan speed, and also where the air is coming from. This you have to do in the screen. This is the car internal GPS. It works, but could be a little bit quicker or more responsive. Most of the time then you will use Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. You can either use it with a cable. That's the one possibility. Apple CarPlay also works wireless. Android Auto so far only wired. That's at least what I heard. So I can test it here then with the Apple one. And when I pick music here, this is the optional 13 speaker Mark & Levinson sound system, manual volume control, and it's a really nice sound. So I like that sound system here, and good integration of the CarPlay as well. I really have to say my favorite thing on the interior is the quality of the steering wheel. It also has a nice ASMR effect. And after all, this is here the #1 interface, driver and vehicle. Now I move to the passenger seat to show you two very interesting things. First of all, I found out here more about the build quality of this vehicle, if it's really premium. Here, look at that, the glove box is closed at the moment, but I can still push it in, you see here. And also this button here for the opening mechanism is not what you would actually expect from a premium vehicle. Here then, underneath where you put your feet actually for the passenger, look at that, this part here. You just touch it with your feet and it's just loose. It's not well attached here actually. Before anyone says now, wait a minute, you're just doing this with Japanese cars. No, as I just said, also with the BMW 5 Series we criticized the interior build quality and so on. I do not care if it's Japanese or German. Just because I come from Germany does not mean that I rate German cars any better. We look at it individually, and what you always have to say is that Toyota and Lexus are very good in the reliability rankings. That has been throughout the past years, and you always have to mention that. But when they promise a premium interior and say this is not a Toyota, we always have to test it. In this case, I have to say, is it really a premium interior? Not quite, I would say. But what about the space here? When we go a little bit more in the front, this is the maximum I could sit as a tall passenger. How much space is there still left in the rear? Rear seats, this is how I would be driving actually. So the space I have behind the seat then of the driver's seat. Then the space behind the passenger seat, a little bit more forward. The question is, do I still fit in there to make it at least 3 adult proof? Rear doors, all hard pack on the top. Here, this is then the soft touch and also this easy opening mechanism. And then behind the passenger seat, I can sit with 189 or 602. The headroom is really close. It does exactly fit here. But then when I would slide, yeah, I mean, theoretically you can also, you're at least allowed to also sit in the middle part. Here you can see behind the driver's seat, yeah, that doesn't really work. At least ISOFIX on the rear, and of course, rear seating is not the focus of this vehicle. You cannot fold down anything here. You have 2 USB-C chargers here, however, in the middle. What about the trunk here? Is it also tiny, like the whole vehicle? 400 liters for the front-wheel drive version. If you have the all-wheel drive, then 315, so you lose a little bit. Here, the normal width, let's see. Yeah, it's 1 meter or 40 inches, that's good. The length, of course, somewhat limited at 75 centimeters or 29 inches. You see here it goes quite deep in there for the trolley and so on. You can fold the seats 2/3, 1/3 split as well, but you have to reach over or go around. So overall, I think it's quite okay considering the size of the vehicle. So, and then the question is, of course, oh, child safety test, why not? That's pretty sensitive, good. Why do Audi and Mercedes drop out of these small vehicles? BMW still offers the Mini, for example. They have the segment for that. Well, it's a problem to make it profitable. So due to the safety regulations, cyber security, for example, as well, then of course also the crash safety, then all the emission laws and so on. And at the same time, electric vehicles are only profitable in a very small scale when the battery prices go down. So at this moment, it doesn't make sense for a manufacturer to build small vehicles. You cannot earn proper money with it unless you share the platform. And this one here, the Lexus LBX, is sharing the platform with the Toyota Yaris Cross. The question is it just a rebadged Yaris Cross? Or is there even something more? We've seen it on the interior. They are definitely more upmarket in the interior. Then they say they have more insulation and so on, so that it's actually more silent. We're going to find out with the drive. And also this more or less same engine from the base gets a little bit more power. Under the hood we have a 1.5 liter 3-cylinder with 136 horsepower. Acceleration figure 9.2 seconds here for the front-wheel drive version. If you have the additional electric all-wheel drive, then 9.6 seconds because you have 75 kilograms more in weight. The overall weight is 1,280 kilograms, so it's a pretty light vehicle. But actually the chief engineer asked me what do Germans especially think about this vehicle as for the premium sense? And I told them, the interior is actually pretty cool, but as for the engines, a lot of the customers in Europe might think, it's maybe a little bit underpowered. So the acceleration is actually quite slow. So the question is if people in Europe, especially in Germany, will accept this one here as a premium engine. It is very efficient. We're also going to find out more about it in the driving part. But some might say, I just want more power in a premium car, although this one is, of course, a very small one. What's your take on that? Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Lexus LBX. First, a very interesting thing, which this one here has in common with the Lexus LM. That huge luxury van thing we have recently shown you as well. It has the so-called brake posture control. So when we're here in city traffic, the car tries to stay upright. A thing that usually is done like here now, traffic light. You see here I'm hitting the brakes. And you see it doesn't do a big nosedive when braking, which is actually totally normal if a car would do that. And more elaborated luxury vehicles try to even it out with active suspension technology with hydraulics that, for example, front is then pumped up in driving, or when you accelerate, it works against it in that way, like the all-new Porsche Panamera. We are also going to show that to you, or maybe S-Class Coupe or GLE. They have this suspension leaning technology. But here they do it in a simpler way because they also need to keep the prices low. So what they do here is, with so-called brake posture control, usually you have most of the braking power in the front. And here they have this adaptive braking system that they can distribute the braking powers front and rear like they want to. And so a little bit more braking power is sent to the rear in, like mediocre braking. And so the car doesn't lean so much to the front. If there's more braking needed, then that's welcome to Valencia, Spanish driving. But I mean, I like it. What I do like is that they are more daring in roundabouts, So when you're driving a roundabout in Germany, for example, it takes ages because everyone is waiting until there's acres of space and then you get in. And here in Spain, everyone is going in the roundabout and it somehow works. That's the main difference. So back to this posture control here, you really feel that the car is a little bit more calmer in its body movement position, and I think it's a very interesting idea to achieve that with a simpler system than with active suspension technology. So again, the main effect is that a little bit more braking power is sent to the rear, but they can always adjust that depending on the situation you have. Here in city traffic, of course, the hybrid system plays a major role. Then it plays out all its efficiency advantages. So, for example, you can always use this regenerative braking when there's the next traffic light and so on. And often when you lift your foot off the throttle, then we have electric driving. Here, for example, I see at the moment RPM is at 0, and then I'm just in the EV mode, getting all the power from that buffer battery. And there you can actually score some very good efficiency figures, some 5 liters on 1 kilometers, so some 50 mpg US, 60 mpg UK. And you might wonder, wait a minute, shouldn't that be even lower because Toyota RAV4 or Toyota Prius and so on, or also like Lexus ES or whatever, in the bigger vehicles you can score similar consumption figures with that hybrid system. And yes, that's actually true. And obviously the lower weight we have here doesn't have the biggest effect on that. So usually is in the way that it is always efficient no matter which size of the vehicle you have, and if it's a little bit smaller and a little bit lighter, it doesn't make the biggest effect that it's even more efficient or something. Here in city traffic, it's actually good to have now this smaller vehicle, and this is also their main argument, because for European roads, especially if you have the more narrow cities, it just feels more relaxed when you have a smaller car and to find a parking lot and so on. And especially when Mercedes and Audi are dropping out of these smaller segments, then of course Lexus could have it a little bit easier to achieve new customers. Also really nice steering, I have a good feeling for that. There we go with the ASMR effect of the steering. So here the commands are transported very well, and you see there's no dead zone area, even fine commands are being transported to the road. I like that. Suspension-wise, this is a good testy because this is here a very uneven road, and we do have the bigger wheels mounted here, 18-inch, and there you do feel the bumps. So it is not a sports car, but I would say it's a rather sporty setting for the suspension. Here this is also the front-wheel drive version only, so that means we have the more simple constructed rear axle. Yes, the chief engineer told me that driving dynamics-wise, the front-wheel drive only is better. At the same time, I would maybe think about going for the more elaborated rear axle with the overdrive version. So if you want a little bit more comfort, then you would stick with the 17-inch wheels. However, then the advantage of this rather sporty setup is it drives very well in a fun and dynamic sense. And even if you compare it to the Toyota Yaris Cross, which is the technological brother to this one here, or sister, how you like it, here this one here definitely drives more agile and it is actually more fun. So I found it very cool. Even in the city traffic here, you have a lot of fun steering it around. It fits with the tiny size and so on, and the steering is nice, suspension gives you a sporty feeling, and the whole seating position, that's also something where the engineers paid a lot of attention to. They wanted to make it small hatch-alike and not necessarily SUV or crossover-like, and that's also what I feel here. So although it looks on the outside SUV or crossover-like, it really drives like a small hatch. And yeah, I mean, why not? And the seating position itself is also comfortable, and what I also realize is here the steering wheel, I can always find a good position even with like when you're a tall driver. In some of the Toyota counterparts, sometimes the steering wheel for me does not go down far enough that I can find a good position here, with my arms and with my hands. But here it's actually pretty good. So a lot of fun when steering it around all the way here in the city. That's also one of the main purposes of the vehicle, and also the efficient consumption stays in that region all the time. And here once again on the brakes, there's also this visualization, by the way, when I hit the brakes in the instruments, and then I also know that that the brake lights are flashing in the rear. Not sure if that's really necessary, but maybe it's also an interesting information. And now some acceleration, 40 to 80, let's go. Plop, that's it. little bit help here with going downhill. You see, it starts with some electric boost, then the engine sets in, and with this new hybrid generation they have, the effect that they have this is still there somewhat. But yeah, she always loves when I mimic engines. So it's still there somewhat, but way less than in previous hybrid generations with this e-CVT. So overall, I think that's okay. And you have to remember that in comparison to the Toyota Yaris Cross, this one here is in the comparable engine spec 1.5, so 1.5 seconds quicker. And since it's not the quickest overall, I think it's good that we have at least that, you know. So do it one more time. So from 60 to 100, let's go. Plop, that's it. Yeah, I went through here on the right side now that you could see the acceleration full. Yeah, it is somewhat enough, even though it's not very powerful. But when I then think about, if it would take 1.5 seconds more in the Yaris Cross, then there's definitely also a reason to go for this one. So yeah, and probably also in that case for the front-wheel drive only version, because the rear-wheel drive version is then a little bit slower due to the added weight. Here on the motorway now, they have this special soundproof installation also with the windows, for example, so it is more silent than with the Yaris Cross, so you gain that. Doesn't have the biggest effect in the city, but more here on the motorway. Toyota and Lexus are not the most silent on very high speeds though, because they don't primarily think of the German market where it would hit the motorway or the Autobahn and even quicker or faster. But here at normal motorway speeds, 1 km an hour, 60 miles an hour, it's also okay as for the noise and so on. Then we can set the cruise control. Here also then plus minus on the steering wheel, and once again I see that feedback of that in the head-up display. And let's see, move over, maybe we can also see something of the blind spot monitor. Let's see when it appears, there we are. So it appears then in the side mirror, I have this flashing thing, and then it, blinks also and gives me an acoustic warning when I would hit the turning indicator. Let's see about this active lane keeping assist. So I can set it here with a separate button, see how smooth it is. Here now the motorway makes a bend. You see some minor corrections, so it's not super smooth, but already quite okay. So you see here, that was well done. You're always obliged to keep your hands on the steering wheel still. So also upgrade assistance systems here, everything you actually need about assistance systems. And what about to turn it off? Yes, some of these done easy with the press of a button. However, if you think about this new EU regulation as for the speed warning, when you exceed the speed, you have to go here in the menu and then go to the road sign assist and then deactivate that one. There's no direct hotkey for that, but at least you can do it more or less in a simple way. Now we can also drive 120 km an hour. Let's see also how the noise installation works there. Yeah, I mean, it is getting somewhat windy. It's also comparable to the other vehicles in the corporation. But yeah, as I said, not set out for the highest of speeds, but the overall characteristic of the vehicle, seating comfort, position, and how it behaves on the road is still overall good as for the comfort level. When you think about larger Lexus vehicles, yes, of course, when you are thinking about it like an ES, so it's a taxi, like a Lexus behind us also now at the moment. They're more and more used for taxi purposes, by the way, because also of the reliability and the hybrid system and so on, and because Mercedes is withdrawing or has withdrawn from the taxi market, especially in Germany with the E-Class. So then taxi drivers are also seeing the advantages of that. But if you compare now the very, very small Lexus to the bigger ones, here in the front cockpit it's more or less the same. The only thing, I would have more space for my legs, for example, here between the steering wheel and the middle console. It's getting kind of narrow for tall people, you know. That is definitely better when I would drive a Lexus NX or an ES and so on. But other than that, from the functionality and the seating comfort and the features and what we touch and see, there it is really Lexus-ish. So initially I said it starts right over 30,000. But then again, yeah, when you have some higher trims and some extra equipment, you can also get to 45,000 euros, high trim plus all-wheel drive and so on. Then it's of course not cheap in that sense. But if you, for example, compare it to an electric vehicle at that size, then it's also more or less the same or a little bit less expensive. That's also what Toyota and Lexus think in their strategy at this moment, that electric vehicles are a little bit too expensive. They focus on this hybrid thing. They're coming with new EVs now, but they're definitely late to the game. But do you think it's the right approach? How Lexus is it? I would say exterior, definitely, yes. Interior in the front cockpit, I would say 60–70% or something like that. There are some details that are not on the same level as we would take a smaller vehicle from the Germans, for example. And sometimes you also have more luxury, of course, still if you would have a larger Lexus. But I think it can make sense, this concept, especially because the Germans have dropped out of these very small segments. If you compare a Toyota Yaris Cross here to this one now, yes, you have some more nice features and some more, more elaborated surfaces with this one here. But is the difference that large? Well, the acceleration, that one doesn't make a significant difference. And of course, the prestige and the exterior design and so on. But I would still think you could also go for a high trim level Yaris Cross. The Toyota C-HR has split opinions in love or hate design-wise, but with this new generation, Toyota really wants to attack the compact SUV segment. Will it work? We'll find out together with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go here with the special version, the GR Sport, that has sportier accentuations in the lower part with this honeycomb style right here, a stronger, sportier, lower intake area as well. And the overall design, you can see it is kind of special and unique, but at the same time I feel it will be less splitting opinion than the predecessor. Or what do you think? The length at 4.36 m or 172 inches, so that's not a big change if you compare the predecessor. Interesting here how they play with the design lines right there. Wheels from 17 to optional 20 inch. So if you go here for the GR Sport 19 inch, and then optional you can get these biggest ones 20 inch. And now something interesting happens. When you go for the plug-in hybrid version or here for the hybrid version with the 20 inch wheels, then you get the new frequency adaptive dampers. So they actually rule in an adaptive way, but in a passive adaptive way. You cannot control them from the inside or so on, but they react accordingly to the impact they get. So let's see in riding if this makes a huge difference. But also the base suspension has been reworked to be a little bit sportier, but more comfortable at the same time, they say. Look at how they integrated these horizontally drawn tail lamps into some kind of rear wing for the whole rear, right? Then when you have the welcome or goodbye signature, the Toyota C-HR logo in the central rear part is also illuminated. And with the GR Sport trim, you get the badge here and also this honeycomb indentations in the lower part for an even sportier look. How do you like the new rear styling? Tell me in the comments. By the way, on the technology side, so the inbuilt hybrid battery is placed below the rear bench. We can also see it here in our cutaway model. And if you want to go for an all-wheel drive, there is an all-wheel drive option here for the inbuilt hybrid, and then you have an additional electric motor between the rear wheels, so at the rear axle, and that is only active when there is wheel spin in the front, so when there's traction loss. So predominantly it will still be front wheel driven, just then in these all-wheel drive situations, maybe like on snow and so on, if you really need it. Turning indicators in the front, ooh, that's really fancy, right? Love that. Such a cool design, but I think the rear turning indicators, they are a little bit disappointing, aren't they? Paint-wise, you also have two contrasting options. You can get the roof here in black, or you can also, for this contrast plus option, you can get the whole rear in a black contrast. Again, you don't have to go for it. You could also take the whole vehicle in the same paint. By the way, here we have a silver vehicle for you, but we also have a golden one or a red one. Which one do you like best? Here, these door handles, they come up like this, otherwise they are flush, and then door closing sound is pretty weird. So they didn't pay attention to that. Then inside of the doors, so the top part is soft touch. Then in the GR Sport trim we also have microfiber here with the red racy-like contour stitches, hard pack in the lower part, and one more time these honeycomb structures here together with the GR entry badge. Also the GR Sport gets this special steering wheel with red contour stitches. Steering wheel material base, or this one is always, by the way, in a animal-free material, and Toyota has tested this and they say it is actually more durable, has less abrasion than the animal skin material. Seats are animal free in the base fabric, and also here in this GR Sport trim, microfiber on the inside, and you have this integrated head restraint. Look pretty cool. By the way, you can slide this one like this, so that is then better for tall adults. And although it's a quite small vehicle, you sit really well here in the sport seats. They hold you tight, good comfort, and it works with tall adults, 189 or 6'2", no problem. Interior cockpit overview, of course, fully new. Instruments in 12.3 inch, always fully digital, like this styling here with the RPM meter. Screen on the right side, either 8 inch, a smaller one, or the optional 12.3 inch widescreen here. For the volume, you have still here these manual buttons and also on-off. And you also still have a manual climate unit, like that straightforward user interface. And you also have real buttons at the steering wheel, for example here for the cruise control. And important info here on the steering wheel, when you click OK, then you get to this assistance systems view, and then you can actually deactivate RSA. This is this new EU speed regulation thing that it always beeps, so it's important to deactivate it if you don't want to be annoyed. But it's not a quick hotkey. And you can also get a head-up display. This is a proper one that is projected into the windscreen. Toyota now offers actually a decently quick infotainment system, and they overall kept it pretty simple here from the menu structure and so on. Most of the time you will use Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and they promise now both is wireless. Because of the rear design, the view to the rear window is kind of limited. That's why they equipped it here with the digital camera mirror. And then you have a oh, that's a nice view here to the ocean at Ibiza. In the lower area you also have a heated steering wheel, separate button. Then you have here the inductive charging pad. Cup holders are not adaptive though. And to put in the gears you have this stairs system, so to speak. Armrest, that is the thing that is not that good from the build quality. The rest is actually pretty cool. And then here more space underneath and more USB-C charging. The rear door doesn't open too wide, all the way hard pack. This is where the price is also explained, so to speak. As said, it's short, but however, the usage of space not too bad. That's also better here. Although it's just like a voluminous sport seat, it fits directly for 4 tall adults, I would say. Gets closer with the knees, headroom also close, but actually works. As for the trunk, hey, we also have an electric hatch. 420 liters here with all-wheel drive, 10 liters more without all-wheel drive, and 70 liters less with a plug-in hybrid. But here you can see luggage fits in very well. The width is 1 meter or 40 inches in this back area, a little bit slimmer here, and the length is about 30 inches or 80 centimeters. 1/3, 2/3 split here for the rear bench. Then you have this step here. Toyota follows a hybrid engine concept here. You get a 1.8 liter hybrid with around 140 horsepower, 10 seconds in the acceleration figure. This one here, the 2 liter hybrid with around 200 horsepower, then about 8 seconds in the acceleration figure. That one also rated with the optional all-wheel drive in the rear. And the plug-in hybrid version, 2 liter plug-in hybrid, that's possible. Also only front-wheel drive, around 220 horsepower, quickest with 7 seconds in the acceleration figure. And that one gets a 14 kilowatt hour gross battery. They don't talk about the net sizes or the buffer, which I highly criticize. They should give these figures to us and to the public, but even talk to the chief engineer and they wouldn't reveal it actually. By the way, if you hear that engine going on sometimes here like now, why would you say like, or this, now it's really on, you might ask yourself, Thomas, why are you doing it? Why don't you shut down the engine when you're filming the car? Well, there is a problem with the Toyota and Lexus small starter batteries. These electric consumers in the vehicle, they drain so much power nowadays from these small 12-volt starter batteries that you have to be aware of when you have it stationary, leave the headlamps on, do something in infotainment, have the AC running and so on. Like we have here the special use case we are doing, but even as a customer, when you have some of these consumers active, you have to leave it in the hybrid mode on, so as you could start driving, and just put it to P. If you just would have it in the first ignition mode on, where the car cannot drive, but there's electric consumers running, it will drain the battery. You have to be aware of that. It is a problem with Toyota and Lexus, especially. It happens to me at the moment with Toyota and Lexus and with the Porsche 911. I don't know. Maybe they have to change something with the electric consumers or something, but as long as you're aware of it and leave it then in this full hybrid mode, then you're actually fine. Thomas' driving lounge. Let's put it to the sport mode here and acceleration 0 to 60. Let's go. Plop, that's it. Pretty nice, actually. So what has Toyota done here? They have actually upgraded their hybrid drive, so it's a new generation, and together with engine tweaks and so on, you actually don't have that big effect anymore that you have this like this. Yes, you still hear it, but not as much as with the previous generation. You have more power. At the same time, the engine acts in a calmer way. Of course, again, when you hit it all the way through with the throttle, you still hear that, but for most situations, the engine will definitely act calmer. This, when you're driving the 2-liter hybrid, it will be like a split, so some will go for the 1.8, lower entry price, some will go for the 2-liter hybrid, just depends on how much power you really need. Acceleration difference then, as I said, is that you have with one around 10 seconds in the acceleration figure, and with the other one around 8 seconds, so 2 seconds in the difference then. Just a plug-in hybrid then with around 7 seconds is a little bit quicker even, but plug-in hybrid probably for most use cases won't make that much sense. Here in the sport mode, of course, the acceleration pedal is a little more enhanced and so on, but usually you would leave it in the normal mode like that. And it's actually pretty silent in here, I have to say, especially if you compare it to the previous generation or other past Toyota models. So they've worked on the noise insulation on this model here especially. They want to make it like a more premium approach, especially for the European market. That was the goal behind everything. Wider track, also more rigid chassis, so they've optimized everything they could. Steering is actually pretty good, so you don't have any dead zone area. Very good reaction here also, so at the same time it's comfortable to steer, so you don't have to steer too much. When you are here in this normal mode, let's just hear the difference once again. Here just calmly cruising, then it's not too loud, so it's actually okay. Remember, this always works as a planetary gearbox, so it's called eCVT, but it's not working in the classic CVT sense. However, you don't have classic gear shifts. That's the reason also why it always sounds like that. But I really have to say, in this generation, definitely sounds better than before. Then assistance systems, look at that here. Active lane keeping assist. Let's test that. I've set the cruise control. It's also adaptive cruise control. There was a good reaction there in that corner. So let's see how hectic or how calm the steering remains. So far, actually, so good. This is another thing they also worked on. This has more elaborate assistance systems, and they also added more assistance systems as standard here. Let's see here, just paying attention. There we go. Yeah, it's actually quite well done so far. Because in older Toyotas, maybe that wasn't the best system, but here it's actually pretty cool. Look at that. Yeah, and at the same time you can always take over yourself and also really quickly deactivate here, for example, the active lane keeping assist with one button click on the steering wheel. That's how I like it. Yeah, I like that straightforward approach. And sometimes maybe you have a role that say, hey, I want to take the steering myself and I want just some nice sportier driving, and then you can easily deactivate that. That's pretty cool. The seats here are doing a good job. They're good in comfort, also long term. They're holding me tight. They're taking weight off the lower lumbar area. So I'm really happy with these seats here. They work both in the sporty and also in the comfortable sense, and they make this, indeed, some kind of premium experience. Not everything is premium with this vehicle, but they've really added a lot of nice premium features. And I just have to say, I really like how the steering performs and so on. So far, the road is kind of even suspension-wise, although We have 20-inch wheels mounted. It's very good comfort. We'll soon also test it when the road is a little bit more destroyed and so on, and see how the result is there. As for the hybrid drive system, when you accelerate, especially accelerate harder, then always the combustion engine is on. However, if I lift my foot off the throttle, directly goes to the EV mode, RPM drop to 0, and even then I can slightly accelerate and it stays in the EV mode. This will predominantly be used in the city, for example, but even here, when the road is going a little bit downhill, goes to the EV mode. When I'm a little bit more on the throttle, goes back again. And because the engine is now more silent, you hardly hear or feel these transitions. So it's really seamless, very smooth transitions between the EV mode and the combustion engine mode. That's definitely well done, and it also helps with the fuel economy. So here at the moment 4.7, so less than 5 liters on 100 kilometers. That's close to 50 mpg US and something close, a little bit less than 60 mpg UK. That's of course really good, also just monetary wise, and of course also for the environment, less CO2 output in the city, and yeah, just better for the pocket. This inbuilt Toyota hybrid system really works. The question there, considering these good results, is if the plug-in hybrid really makes sense, only probably when there are special tax benefits in your country. In Germany, for example, something like that is also still in place, then the plug-in hybrid drivetrain might make sense. And if you can really recharge it externally. For most use cases here, this inbuilt hybrid system will do just fine. And let's put it one more time here to the sport mode for some agile driving and some nice corners. As I said, the steering is really likable, very precise, very direct. 20-inch wheels here together with the frequency adaptive dampers. Again, they don't get stiffer in the sport mode or something, but they react on the different impact they get actually. And so far, when the road is even, is good. Just when there are some bumps in the road, then you feel the 20-inch wheels. So if you want more comfort on destroyed roads, you definitely should stick with smaller wheels. Here, when you have the all-wheel drive or plug-in hybrid, you also have the bigger brakes, by the way, just because of the added weight. But the brake feel itself is also really nice. Remember, they also have to do this brake blending because they also have the regenerative braking when you're in this, in this first moment of braking. But it's actually fine. Also, a very smooth transition of that. The car is fun to drive, definitely, especially because of steering and suspension setup. Really cool here also in the corners. The only thing we felt, Leah has complained a little bit that she tends to get sick in this vehicle. It's really very different in which vehicles the passengers get sick when you have a lot of, curvy roads and so on. And I'm not sure yet what is the real reason for that it sometimes works and it sometimes doesn't. It's just that we can state this experience here. But for me as a driver, it's actually a lot of fun here in these corners. And the engine remains pretty calm. At the same time, especially with the 2-liter engine here, you have some good accelerating out of the corners. The all-wheel drive, as I said earlier, is not there to support the sporty driving. It's just active when you have wheel spin, so when you're driving on snow and so on. But here, even when I do some performance driving, the all-wheel drive doesn't really play a role. So you only should get the all-wheel drive if you really need it in countries where you have these harsh winter conditions, you often have snow and very slippery roads and so on, then it actually makes sense. Oh, in front of us, there's now a golden vehicle, and it seems that I'm catching them pretty early. Here, in these corners there, the car pushes a little bit to the outside, and the steering could be a little bit more progressive, So when the corner is getting more narrow, then I would like to have some more progressive support from the steering. So overall, especially when you compare it to the predecessor, yes, it works. It is more comfortable and sporty at the same time. Comfort, especially if you don't go for the biggest wheels, because you always have to think about you're not always driving roads that are well built like these ones here. You also have some destroyed roads, and then you're definitely better off with these smaller wheels. But overall, it's very good fun and very refined driving experience, as I would describe it. This SUV here will be one of the most important SUVs in the years to come. It is the Toyota Corolla Cross. Here with Thomas, an Autogefühl for you. Well, the name Corolla stands for itself. The normal compact car, the Toyota Corolla, the most sold vehicle overall, worldwide, over 50 million times, and they want to continue this success story with this compact SUV. That's why they're naming then Toyota Corolla Cross and also fitting to that segment. They want to sell over 400,000 pieces a year with that one here. And it's very interesting because already internally in the Toyota brand, it sits between the C-HR and the RAV4 size-wise. And there's also the new, very small brother, the Toyota Yaris Cross. We also have both of these vehicles here in the yellow or golden car, the Yaris Cross, and then the new Corolla Cross next to it. And they differ quite a lot in size. I will also tell you soon more about that. But let's start here with the front. A very bold front. It's kind of like a baby RAV4 already from the looks. It looks really strong for this compact SUV segment. I think Toyota recently had, especially when I think about the C-HR, for example, they had some design methods where maybe weren't that ideal. But this one looks amazing and really bold, doesn't it? This color is called, how's it called again, Brian?
Cement.
Cement, right? They really call it cement. Porsche calls it chalk white or chalk gray, and Toyota calls it cement. Thanks, Brian. Brian's behind the camera today. And he'll also give you a segment later about the British perspective and the perspective of a family father of this vehicle. But now let's continue with my German perspective. And I say, like, design-wise, is really great. One of the best looking compact SUVs right now. So the cement gray color, especially fitting to the vehicle, bold front grille, and also the headlamps in very modern form, daytime running light. I think they really nailed it here design-wise. Contrasting black right here. What do you think? The length here of the Toyota Corolla Cross is 4.46 meters or 176 inches. And that is particularly interesting indeed because it sits also between a lot of the competitors. It is longer than the Honda HR-V, a Mazda CX-30, a Volkswagen T-Roc, and it's a little bit shorter than the Mazda CX-5 or the VW Tiguan or the Honda CR-V. And this position in between makes it kind of ready to attack all of the competitors at the same time. Very interesting proposal. 17 or optional 18-inch wheels. We have the bigger ones right here. Then we have these crossover wheel arches, kind of like trapeze or trapezoid style. Once again, I think very bold statement for a compact SUV. Also here with the contrasting cladding. And then we have the interesting, very premium-like touch with the Corolla Cross lettering here. So this looks off-roadish, right? I mean, we also have some soft off-roading in our driving part today. In the rear, also a very consistent design, horizontal, these tail lamps here, and not much playing around. Once again, bold statement, contrasting colors, but not too much. And also no fake exhaust whatsoever. I think this is really a good example of how to design a modern SUV. It goes, by the way, top speed 180 kilometers an hour or 112 miles an hour. Key fob is very light and simple, does the job, defo. And then the doors here with door closing sound, let's see. Well, that doesn't sound good at all. Well, that's one catch, but what about the interior? Well, here at the inside of the doors, that's soft touch and it looks nice. It has kind of like a leather surface, I would say, but it is not leather, but not animal leather. So like a leatherette kind of surface, but it looks really high class indeed. And also here the door handle from the inside. So this is a step up the game by Toyota. Some space at the inside of the doors here as well. And then this interior, it does remind us of some other models, of course. And here the steering wheel with real buttons still. That's good to have, that you can real click on that thing. Everything resonates very well with that quality here. This is hard click here at the left side. This as well, but this one also here too. But it looks actually quite nice with that kind of stamped in surface structure. That's cool. The seats, you either get base fabric seats in black or in US also in the bright style. Higher trims come with Softex high-grade leatherette on the American market. However, in the European market, Toyota still sells these here containing animal parts. Seating position is actually really good. It's very comfortable from the seats. They are not too much caging you in, yet at the same they do offer you side support. They're quite sporty actually, but not too sporty. So I think they found a great seating, really good ergonomics from the seats. The position here, you can put the steering wheel in and out, up and down, so you can find a very good driving position. It already feels like a grown-up SUV indeed, without being too big for some purposes, like a RAV4 or a VW Tiguan or something. The Tiguan Allspace, of course, is a little bit longer. That would be the base Tiguan in the US. So yeah, I think this is a very nice feeling and good, in-between segment they found here between the C-HR and the RAV4 for them. Headroom here with 189 or 602. Yeah, plenty of headroom left, no problem at all. Base would be 7-inch screen with analog gauges. These here are the optional 12.3-inch full digital instruments, and they also have nice visualizations for the driving mode, like here the power mode, the eco mode, or the normal mode, which rather has to do with throttle input, for example. And you always have a nice digital speedometer right there, so it does the job. And of course the consumption, that one went up when we're going uphill and off-roading. You can score better consumption figures, like 5 liters on 1 kilometers on motorway driving, 1 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour. That would be like 47 mpg US, 56 mpg UK, and even better actually when you had a little bit less fast driving and make more use of that hybrid drivetrain. The dashboard here in the lower area has a nice leatherette texture and also has some kind of soft touch top. That's really nice. And also here, the glove box is dampened. That's nice actually, quality wise. And then, well, just when shutting it, it makes a typical noise, but I can live with that. Then here, this middle console right there, this is the automatic shifting lever. You also have the drive mode buttons here, and the electric parking brake, and the cup holders, they are a little bit open. They are not adaptive, and I don't like the high gloss black panel lacquer here. And the this one here is not that well attached though, but you have some more space underneath. Here's an area I do appreciate. These buttons here, here for seat heating, high and low, heated steering wheel, they look kind of old school, but in a way or in a world where everything is now digitalized, this resonates very well. It really has a nice clicking sound, and it gives kind of like tough feeling to the vehicle. That's funny. USB-A chargers here in the front, but also inductive charging pad, and USB-C chargers will be in the back. Infotainment system, you would start with an 8-inch one in the US, but already features Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wireless. And this one here is the bigger 10.25-inch, so just bigger in the screen than here. And actually it does have a GPS you can use. It's maybe not as good as Google Maps or Apple Maps, but the first time we were in a Toyota, and I also saw the shuttle drivers using the Toyota internal GPS. So that speaks for it indeed. So, and then the base system here, I deactivate this beeping sound because it drives you nuts, by the way. It doesn't have too much things, but most of the time you will use it for the smartphone mirroring anyway, and that is a very nice large integration of Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. So now some music. That is actually a very good sound here in that. Wow, that is amazing. Woo. I mean, this vehicle has some, in a lot of ways premium touch. And by the way, this is here another volume adjustment inside the screen, but there are also real buttons. Well, to turn something for real is the climate unit, and that is also great for the easy user interface. Vent strength is here, but to me the most important is I can actually just change the temperature slightly and easily while driving. Inside of doors, it has a structure, that's nice, but it's actually hard pack. So yeah, I used my door for that, but it looks actually quite decent. The doors do not open that wide. That might be a problem for getting child seats in and out, but you do have Isofix on the outside seats each, and also the nice soft touch leatherette here for the rear seats. You can also change the angle of the seats here a little bit, make them more upright or put them more behind, and the seating comfort is actually quite decent. It is not segment leading in legroom, better than the C-HR, but it's getting really close when I'm driving in the front. But if the driver is a little bit smaller, it's fine, and you can use this car with 4 tall adults. That is possible indeed. So better than the C-HR. The RAV4, of course, has a little bit more space. And if we take a look at the external competitors, VW T-Roc would be similar. The Tiguan is a little bit better, but it's also the bigger car. Honda has the best package. Already the HRV, the small one, offers great legroom in the rear in comparison to other vehicles in the segment. And the CR-V, of course, really good. So they are not segment leading here, the Toyota Corolla Cross, as for legroom, but headroom is actually totally fine. There's a lot of headroom left, and the quality here in the rear also seems fine. Cup holders are not adaptive though, but everything else feels and looks good. 2 USB-C chargers here in the lower part, by the way. Let's take a look at the trunk or the boot. Brian, you're from the UK. Is it boot at UK, right? It's boot,
That's
right?
Boot.
Yeah, boot. So that's why I always say both, trunk and or boot. And in Germany, by the way, it's Kofferraum or Gepäckraum. So Kofferraum is more like suitcase area in a direct translation. Listen and repeat, Kofferraum. That's the new German vocabulary here on Autogefühl today. Yeah, Gepäckraum would be more like loading area, and you can say both actually. 430 liters it is here, or 25 cubic feet. Let's take a detailed look. The only thing I don't like is this cover here. I mean, it doesn't have a sharp edge, that's good, so that's, no problem. But here you don't have any gap in here, so you always have to do like this to remove it. You can live with it, but it's not ideal. Here, a lot of space indeed, and these gaps here in the side, they are very well done, because you can use it here, for example, for Brian's laptop bag, or here for my backpack right there. So very well done indeed. And the minimum width here is about 90 centimeters or 35 inches. That's already good. But I mean, here then, if you use then these gaps on the inside, it's like acres of space in width. That's very well done. And here the length is about 85 centimeters or 33 inches. So that's already quite decent. And the height, I mean, there is a small loading sill step here, but that's then meaning you have 80 centimeters or 31 inches of height. That's good. You fold the seats, you can grab over from here. You do have some kind of step then here, because the suitcases are also tied together. So there is this step right here. But then again, you get the full height here. So that, by the way, underneath the cover is nothing in the hybrid version, at least here. So, and then the full length to my seat as I would be driving is about like 165 or 64 inches. Let's take a look at the engines here. So in the US market, for example, most important and the main engine is a 2-liter naturally aspirated engine with around 10 seconds in the acceleration figure. Same acceleration would have the 1.8 hybrid, all 4-cylinder engines. And then there is a 2-liter hybrid we have here today. That's the quickest one with 7.5 seconds in the acceleration figure. This one here is also available as an all-wheel drive version. Then it has an electric motor in the rear, an additional one. The hybrid system here, of course, for better fuel economy. We'll tell you more about that later on. What is interesting is when you go for these hybrid drivetrains, the 1.8 or the 1.8 or the 2-liter hybrid, they have the 5th generation hybrid now. Lithium-ion battery, less weight, more efficiency, more power. If that's all true, we'll find out in the driving part very soon. Welcome to Thomas's driving lounge with the Toyota Corolla Cross, and starting here on the motorway, about 80 kilometers an hour, so like 50 miles an hour. Wow, I mean, it behaves very, very well. So it's really silent and smooth. So Brian also, that's what was one of the first things he told me when he was entering the car and we were getting on the motorway and just getting off now till I can enter again to give you something of the acceleration. It is indeed super smooth. And let's just, hit the accelerator pedal when we go uphill and go 60 to 80. Let's see how smooth that is. Well, that's it. That was almost 85. It's quite okay, I mean, you still have this CVT-alike feeling, although it's this, e-CVT in the hybrid. So, but it's definitely less than before. So also the acceleration feels less hybrid-alike, I would say. So it indeed feels like a more premium vehicle, I would say, and definitely like a baby RAV4. You sit a little bit lower and it's not that large around you. Yeah, and also like from the things you feel, see, and touch, and so on. This is really a notable upgrade. Also, how the infotainment works and so on. So now at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, and it's still reasonably silent, although the tarmac here around Barcelona is quite rough indeed and does give a lot of noise. We can also have the adaptive cruise control in this vehicle, depending on the trim level, of course. Set now to about 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour. You have different assistance systems. You also have the lane keeping assist, the active one. Now it is active. Let's see how smooth we are kept in the lane actually. See here, so far no hectic steering movements, very smooth. There's also blind spot monitor. At the moment no one is overtaking us, but there's like a blinking then in the side mirrors. Now it already complains, unavailable soon, take control of the steering wheel. There we go. So far, and that's also a thing with this vehicle. They get the latest generation of the assistance systems by Toyota. So latest hybrid technology and latest assistance systems. There's the blind spot monitor. When you hit the turning indicator, there's also a flashing of this warning then. And about this hybrid system, the first thing we mentioned to you, so it is more powerful now that you don't get this typical slow feeling, you know. It is still a little bit, yes, and they usually don't put the most powerful engines in these vehicles. That's not what they're best in, but it's definitely a little bit quicker than before. This one here is the 2-liter hybrid we're driving, goes 7.5 seconds from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour, and that is already quite okay for a car of that size and for this segment, definitely. So at the same time, they say they are more efficient, and at the end of our test drive we'll also try to confirm that. So, and that's the thing, you know, more power yet at the same time more efficiency. How do they actually gain that? A little bit of weight losses. There's lithium-ion battery now being used, and also they reduce the friction inside engine parts, and these are the measures they're trying to achieve that by. So at the moment we're about 5 liters on 1 kilometers, which is a typical Toyota hybrid consumption, and we'll see if we can also keep that up at a later stage when we drove for a little bit further. But considering this is motorway driving here now, which is not the best ideal situation for hybrid, it's more like when you have city traffic that you can make use of some recuperation, that's totally fine. You know, also inside the tunnel, which is usually quite loud, it's staying relatively silent. So I'm not sure about you, Brian, but the Toyotas I have been driving, this one seems to be the most silent one as like noise insulation. What's your take?
I'm actually kind of blown away by this car so far. It really delivers a lot more than I expected of it.
A really nice ride, also suspension-wise, you know. So we also had some rougher roads. We are now at like, you know, normal average motorway speed, and the suspension is really doing a good job. So it's smooth, but at the same time it's actually like sporty enough. We're here at the moment at 18-inch wheels, once again in that tunnel here, and they also offer 17-inch wheels for entry-level models. They're a little bit later for European market, but I think the 18 are actually quite fine. The 17 will be a softer ride, but this one is a very good compromise, you know. So, and also the feedback I have from the steering, this is really, I mean, here like some subtle movements are being transported to the road without being exaggerated. So really, really happy with the steering movement. When we soon get off the motorway, we'll also do some more winding corners that you can experience a little bit more about that.
Now that's where I'm really interested to see. That's where this car is going to prove itself or not.
Yeah,
because two things that our last driving experience on a Toyota together, do you remember, was in the hills. And
with the Igo X.
There we found some challenges. Well, the famous distinctive Toyota whine you get when you're going up a hill, I'm really excited to see.
But I always show like a short bit. It was definitely better, you know, than before. But it was just a very short hill, you know.
Until we get it on a big hill with lots of windy corners, we're really not going to get a full sense of that.
See here, like a lane change.
That's nice.
It's nice, like really smooth. Like, let's change it back.
Really nice.
It feels actually like almost kind of sporty. We also have the drive modes here. There's the power drive mode as well. Oh, that changes like eco, normal. That was the side of the road. Yeah, the power mode, but let's see if the steering changes. Power mode, eco. Nah, not really. So it's more about the throttle input, you know, that from a power mode we have more reaction in the throttle pedal. That's fast. Yeah, always the Germans, right? In the Audis. We are the non-Germans today. So like this automatic thing. I'm not sure if you're like if you're from Spain, maybe it would drive me nuts. So that is something I really appreciate about German Autobahn, the German motorways. That, I mean, we pay our taxes, and we pay a lot of taxes in Germany. At least we can use the motorways then for free. So 30 kilometers an hour. Yeah, let's bum. Oh, it's good suspension test. Feels quite smooth as well, right? So now 40 kilometers an hour. Let's go uphill. 60, 90. That's okay. That's really okay. I mean, it is not a super fast car. That's not how it's supposed to be.
You know what, Thomas? I'm going to say something really shocking and controversial now.
Yes.
If you blindfolded me and you blocked my ears, and that bit's important, I could almost think I was driving in a BMW.
Really?
The characteristic, the quality of the experience too. The seats are really good.
I think that might be the last time I could send Brian to a BMW event. if BMW guys are watching this.
I did say you got to lose the sound, and I think that's quite an important component of the car.
Yeah.
But the drive is really good in this car.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. And so you definitely have less of this annoying, you know, like the stretching, you know, feeling like it really feels so much more refined. So yeah, I'm really a fan of this new 5th generation powertrain of the hybrids. There will also be a natural aspirated engine for the US guys available. So basically this engine without the hybrid, that will be lower in the entry price and so on. But also this one, of course, profits a little bit from the upgrades this car is experiencing without the hybrid thing, of course. Then yeah, let's go back to the normal. I mean, the driving modes, they are nice visualized here in the cockpit, but don't play too much of a role. But also on the motorway, we're going downhill a little bit. I'm in the EV mode, so at the moment the combustion engine is shut off. And then I have some more buffer boost once again when I'm going uphill now. This will play more effect, of course, in the city, because in the city, like this starting from zero, takes so much fuel usually, that when you get this small EV kick, it does save a lot of fuel. But even here on the motorway, at least it does something when you have some topography changes. When you don't have that, it doesn't play such a big role actually. So yeah, that is so really positive impression here on the motorway, yet, you know, both from Brian and me. The question is now, how can it perform when we go a little bit sportier in winding roads and more up and down? Let's find out. So now I'll put it once again to the power mode. Go Power Rangers. And let's see. Yeah, of course you get something of that sound, but it does disappear way quicker. Let's see, we go in these, you know, nice winding roads here now. Steering feel is actually quite good. It is light, definitely. I mean, the power mode could have used some, let's say, oh, it's now a little bit off-road. That's also good for test suspension. So I think the power mode could have used some steering adjustment. That's definitely good. So that you have a little bit more feedback. But in general, I think steering is really nice, you know. So, well, and it is a crossover SUV, so some soft off-roading can't be bad. Here's some, well, there are some bumps, but the suspension is doing a really good job still, you know. I need to drive a little bit slower here now. I mean, that can be, depending on the market, also be very relevant. And the good thing is, this is smaller than the RAV4, so this is also an advantage that when it gets narrower like this, and you have some passages. I mean, this was totally unexpected now. The GPS didn't show it. It's doing a great job. So this is the front-wheel drive version of the hybrid. There will also be the all-wheel drive version. Then you have an electric motor in the rear. So if this is relevant to you and you have more of these off-road situations, that could be something. The acceleration figure does not really differ. It's like 0.1 seconds that the all-wheel drive is quicker. But here, now uphill again, it's really excellent. So I really have to say, from the whole drivetrain, from the noise insulation, from how the car handles, I mean, leaving aside like special versions, like, you know, like a Toyota Supra or something, which has these BMW genes, you know, as a sports car. But let's say talking normal cars or SUVs at Toyota, I think this is easily the best Toyota I have ever driven. And yeah, Brian is just nodding. So because it does everything very, very well and smooth. It is fun, it is comfortable, it gives you almost kind of serenity, although it's not the biggest car, you know, while driving.
But it's still a Toyota.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, a lot of the time when you buy a Toyota, you have to kind of shrug your shoulders and make your peace with it and say, but at least I got a great car out of it.
Yeah.
I just have to live with it. I don't think you have to live with this at all. I think you get this
really
car
nice.
and you say, great, this is actually exactly what I want.
Yeah. Now, winding roads again, tarmac. Yeah, maybe a little bit more feedback from the steering wheel, but that's just a feeling thing. But, you know, the thing is, it is kind of precise, and it also reacts on short movements without exaggerating. So they also got a quite good steering feel here over these bumps. Even if I go over them in a little bit faster way, it doesn't, you know, crush our lower back or something. I would maybe stick with the base version of the car to get fabric seats. That these will be available in Europe, already available in the US. If you want it more breathable, you know, it's breathable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's breathable. Yeah. This just is better for a hot climate, I would say. I can just stress again, it handles very well. It doesn't shake up too much. The steering is also fine. So from the whole driving characteristic, yeah, I mean, this typical, you know, there is no gearing, you know, feeling. It is still somewhat there, but definitely less than before. So it's not a big issue then, and it's also not lacking power. I mean, we're going uphill, and it's definitely not lacking power, you know. So, and yes, now the consumption went up a little, but as long as we were keeping it straight. So even motorway is some 5 liters on 1 kilometers, and that can be less when you have some city driving only and really make use of this hybrid drivetrain. And this can be very dangerous to a lot of the competitors. And we were still debating, is it, I think it can already be compared to a Mazda CX-5, and maybe already to a VW Tiguan or a T-Roc, Honda HR-V or CR-V. It is somewhat in between, and therefore can be dangerous for all of them, I guess.
I think so too, and I think it's a really well-positioned offering, because there's definitely something within the market that says, I want a little bigger but not that bigger. And I think Mazda have proved with the 5 just how popular that vehicle is.
Yeah.
This brings something genuinely new into that segment, and I really think you have to give it to Toyota. This to me is knocked it out of the park. The only thing, obviously, always is the fly in the ointment is, will the pricing match within the segment?
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's the big difference indeed. Here in Europe, they start selling it as a high spec. In the US, you can also get a low spec, low price, or some kiddies. But also European market will get some cheaper versions later on. But yeah, you have to see if the price does match for you.
The first thing that happens when you have children is that everyone and their dog tells you you're going to need everything to be bigger, because these creatures are going to turn up and destroy your life, make mess everywhere, and take up all of your room. Well, one of those statements is true, and it's the one about the space. But you don't need to have a bus just because you've got kids. And that's the first thing I really love about this car. Yes, you need more room. No, you don't have to have a caravan towing behind you with all of their equipment in. This car is a really great compromise between still very definitely feeling like a smaller SUV, but providing you with more than enough space than you're ever going to need for your children and their friends and their equipment, provided you're good at managing yourself and your family. Now, not only that, but Toyota is an incredibly practical brand. So yes, soft plastic, hard plastic, 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 plastic. But you know what? That means it's really easy to keep, maintain and care for, and easy to clean, and that's important. But that is all about owning this vehicle as a family. Now, I just want to make sure you're clear, it's not all Toyota fanboy stuff over here. And Toyota don't get everything right. Look at this. So that's hardly a 90-degree door open. And given that your children are going to be opening and abusing this door 1,000 times every day, I think they could have done a slightly better job. You know who did do a slightly better job? The Mazda CX-5. And let's be honest, most of the time you're going to be driving any vehicle you bought for family use is just going to be you all by yourself, more likely than not, taking 4,000 trips every single week to the supermarket. So how does it perform on that basis? Well, this is where I really love this car. It takes all of the best features of the RAV4 and it shrinks them down, making them more fun, more practical, and just better. My next door neighbour has a RAV4 and it's never made me smile ever since he got it. It's not that it's bad, it's excellent for all the reasons that it's so popular. It's just a bit, you know, it's not going to put a smile on your face. This keeps all of the best features of the RAV4 and improves on all of them, including the drive. So the only reason to get a RAV4, and this is what I'm saying to you, is if you really convince yourself you absolutely have to have the space. Well, I've got 3 kids. I know that, and a dog, because I count them every day. And I'm here to tell you, you don't need the space. You can make it work. And this car is going to keep you smiling when they're not in it as much as it will when they are.
The Lexus UX, and this is the full review. It's probably love or hate, yes. So tell me in the comments, what about you, love or hate this front? But so dramatic design, like, you know, carved from a samurai sword. And here the Lexus logo resembles also in the daytime running light. That's, I think, a beautiful feature, definitely. And the headlamp unit, the main one, comes standard with LED and optional with matrix LED. 4 meters 49, 177 inches or 14'7" is the length of the Lexus UX. And comparing to the NX, that's 14 centimeters or 5.5 inches less. You know, so that's the difference then to the bigger brother. And you can see here the side profile. It looks a little bit like the design team was locked in a candy store overnight. You know, but then the good side is you definitely will get a vehicle that looks like nothing else. I mean, have you ever seen this shape of wheel arches here? I can't even, I mean, it's some kind of a trapeze, but then not really. Yeah, so, and then, you know, the curved design lines right here, and then there's another one right there. And can't even end to describe everything they've put in here. So yeah, definitely very interesting. What I really like is here the side mirrors. Look at that, from the lower part and the upper part, they have a contrast color in themselves. The lower one fitting then to the vehicle color, the upper one rather, you know, to the glass or something, or to the black elements right there. So that's pretty cool. Wheels come from 17 or 18 inch. Those ones here are the 18-inch wheels. And then towards the rear, we have a very big C-pillar overall with rather strong shoulders. How will it play out also for the trunk? That we'll, you know, find out later. And again, this strong plastic crossover wheel arch look to stress the crossover character of this car. Well, we talked about the front being very dramatic, but the same goes for the rear. First of all, beautiful design element that this light strip goes all over the car here. And then this is a very three-dimensional design. Of course, yeah, we always see it from the outside that you will lose some trunk space on the inside. For example, here, those tail lamps are shaped in a so three-dimensional way. You could even have breakfast on this area here. Yeah, very, very interesting. And then a big contrasting shape in the lower end. Really glad they did not go for fake exhaust tips. No hydraulic struts. I think for that price we could have expected that here. Nevertheless, talk about the engines. This one UX 200, a 2-liter naturally aspirated petrol engine, 170 horsepower. And based on that one, there's also the hybrid, the 250H. That one then with about 180 horsepower. And with an electric motor as an additional one, and you can get that one also as front-wheel drive only, like this one here, or then also in another version as all-wheel drive. And starts here at the inside of the doors, which has soft materials at the inside of the doors, pretty cool. Then this wood effect look right here next to those dials. The space at the inside of the door is somewhat limited. Then the steering wheel is pretty thick, as we know it from Lexus, with contrast stitches on the inside. Then they have very interesting material right here on top of the dashboard. It's soft and has a special structure, so really cool, very well done, again with contrast stitches. Then those ones here are the animal skin seats in the luxury line, the only line where you can only get those, but Lexus offers a wide variety of non-animal materials which are really high class. In Europe, for example, especially also in Germany, we get fabric seats with the microfiber parts, so fabric microfiber mix in beige, gray and black, so 3 different colors. That's pretty cool. Or you can also get in the F Sport a microfiber leatherette mix, Ecolux, the leatherette brand name here in Europe, and in the US they call their leatherette New Lux, and there you get in all trims a New Lux in beige, black or brown. So pretty good choices as for that. And what I really like about the interior of this car, and of course also about other Lexus vehicles, they really pay attention to the details. For example, when you use the window lever here, like the button here for the windows, the automatic one, then the first moment, it starts, and also, when it goes down, like the last moment, or there again, it slows down, it's not like bam, 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 bam. So it's really super refined. Do it like this, and then it smoothly goes in. Just for the last bit, it slows down a little bit, and then again gives you this refined feeling. And what's also nice, look at this lower door sill here. This is pretty thick and wide, and this will definitely protect the inside sill then from any mud. So one thing directly now, look at that. First of all, the form here of this upper dashboard part. This really resembles the front grille, so that's a pretty cool design element when something on the interior resembles the exterior. But then again, those handles here, for the ESC control, or then when we take a look at the other side where you can pick the driving modes right there, and it works like that you turn like this, or then put normal mode here again. I mean, what were they thinking of putting it right there? I mean, reaching it from here while driving. I mean, what's the meaning of that? Getting inside proves my point that this one here is not an SUV but a crossover. You sit a little bit higher than in a normal compact hatch, but it rather feels like a compact hatch than an SUV. But similar to, for example, to a Mercedes GLA, which is also not really an SUV to me. Again, that's nothing good or bad, it's just your preference, definitely. But as for the height, I'm 1m86 or 6'1". Subscribers will know, still a lot of headroom left here. But as for the rest, how you're caged in here as a tall person, this is quite narrow overall, the whole space you have in the interior, which is again, due to this very dramatic exterior design, for example. Electric seat control, and this is pretty cool because even the electric motors, they can feel very refined in this car, and also how the buttons and everything are attached and applied. There's also an electric control here for the steering wheel, as for up, and also here for in and out. However, I always have it in the highest and the most far out position because it doesn't go that far up overall. But then that way, when I put it all the way up and all the way out, then it somehow still fits to my driving position. Oh, and by the way, one comfort feature is, and I show you that at the very end now, because the car will start beeping very annoyingly. But the thing is, when I turn off the ignition, then the seat goes backward. So it's a good comfort feature to get in. And when I turn on the ignition, the seat goes forward again. And now the car won't start beeping for, a couple of minutes. And that's really annoying. It's like, oh, the door is still open, but come on, seriously. Interior overview, very unique design here too. Again, great material here on the top of the dashboard. It looks good, it feels great, so special, I really like that. And again, the element I showed you earlier, right here, that resembles the front grille. Then you get a 7-inch screen as standard, and optional this one, 10.3-inch with a widescreen format and still with an analog clock. Then great quality of materials, like all the buttons you click, the sounds they make, the haptic feedback you get from everything. This is very well done. The lower area you have an area for the seat cooling, also for seat heating, heated steering wheel, so all those, even in 2 levels, so all those options are available. Steering wheel again here, you see this compact setup, right side for the cruise control, left side for example to control those instruments. Yeah, and those instruments, they're all digital. You can see it right here when I turn off the ignition and the seat pulls me back again. So pretty interesting. Then close up here at the infotainment screen. The visualization already looks a little bit old school, but the big problem is really how you control everything. And here again how it works. So you use your finger, you get somewhat of a haptic feedback from this touchpad, and then you swipe left and right, and then those those stuff are actually appearing and putting in like magnets a little bit, but again, I think it's very distracting while driving. In the lower part, you have an inductive charging platform for your smartphone. Then next to it is very interesting, this 12-volt power supply socket. When you open it, it lifts so smoothly, and then it clicks also when you close it again. Nicely done. Then you have some adaptive cup holders right there. Automatic shifting lever next to this touchpad we talked about earlier. And this one here is also quite strange, this control pad here where you have some hotkeys for tune or for the volume. You can turn those knobs a little bit or press them. Everything pretty peculiar again. And then there's this armrest where you can open it from both sides actually, like this and like this. And inside then you have a USB port, actually 2. And now to the rear where this door here doesn't open too wide. Hard pack materials, by the way, at the rear door from the inside. And I'm just so glad that this car here has a bright ceiling on the inside. Otherwise, this one here would be a total black hole. And you can see, as I would be driving, and yeah, the seat is in the forward position at the moment, so from this automatic comfort feature. So I'm totally hitting my knees right there. I can barely sit here as a tall adult, knee room-wise. Headroom-wise, actually, no problem. That's totally fine. But everything really very cramped in here, so the package, the using of space is not really good. Isofix at the outside seats here, and you can already flip the seats from here. Then you have this middle part with an armrest with cup holders, non-adaptive. And last but not least, well, there's no significant middle tunnel because it's a predominantly front-wheel driven car, and the all-wheel drive will just be done with the electric drive then. Then you have 2 more USB supplies here in the rear. So what about the trunk? Electric hatch here, and yeah, it takes quite some time to open it. And you can see it's very limited in height here because the hybrid versions would have the battery right here, and here in this case, well, you can store some more stuff underneath, so that's possible then. But then the upper, well, there's no lowering sill, that's cool. But then again, the height is really limited. So a trolley would fit in that way, but not really in that way, at least not under the cover. And even if I remove the cover, you can see this probably doesn't work. Yeah, so that's the thing about. And we can also take some measurements for you, and that's here in length, about 80 centimeters, and in width, that's a meter, less than a meter right there. And for flipping the seats, you have to go around like this, and then flip the seats like those. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Lexus UX, in this case the UX 200. So the front-wheel driven, naturally aspirated 2-liter engine with about 170 horsepower. The entry version of this car. And there are also the hybrid models available, which then also offer all-wheel drive. And of course they can use this recuperation, and you can drive in the EV mode inside the city. You can not charge from the outside, it's an inbuilt hybrid. But this one here again, the pure petrol engine. And thing is, first thing, I really noticed that about the fuel consumption, because we know that from the smaller Toyotas and stuff. That's interesting watering. Okay. Live on stage. So when you know about the Toyota hybrid models, they are really very low in fuel consumption. So we scored awesome results there with with the Corolla hybrid, for example, in the new generation. And I also know even better why, because when we drive this pure petrol engine here, when you drive it, for example, motorway, steady speed, 100 kilometers, 62 miles an hour, you can score as low fuel consumption as 6 liters in 100 kilometers with this one here, which would be about 39 mpg US, 47 mpg UK. But when we're driving predominantly in the city here, we rather get to values of 10 liters on 100 kilometers, which is only 23 mpg US, 28 mpg UK. And that's of course very bad for such a small vehicle, you know. So the true fuel consumption will be somewhat in between those two values. So I always like to stay like a minimum and a maximum value, and then like the mixed value will be something in between, and always depending on your driving profile, of course. That's the new 7 Series already as a customer vehicle with this huge front grille. Check out the 7 Series review here on Autogefühl 2 with the facelift. Yeah, but I mean, this really shows why they do this with the inbuilt hybrid engines, because they especially save fuel in the city. You know, when you have like this lot of stop and go, and you can use this EV mode, and you have to brake, and then you can recuperate more energy than back to the battery, and then you can use it in the city traffic again, or standing still, and then just rolling forward. Then really the hybrid engine works, and overall the system works pretty well. So indeed, if you want some more fuel savings, the hybrid engine would be a better choice. However, you always have to think about, check it out in your specific market. What's the extra price for it? And how many kilometers do you drive per year? And does it really pay off in the long run? And if you're driving predominantly on the motorway and higher in steady speed, then again the hybrid won't make so much sense in comparison to this one. Yeah. So that's about the fuel consumption, a little bit comparison to the just pure petrol engine and the hybrid drive. Overall to this vehicle, I think one of the main characteristics is they announce it a little bit like a small SUV, but I think it's actually not. So it's definitely a crossover to me. As for the seating position, don't sit too high. Told you that earlier in the interior part. And also driving wise, it rather drives like a normal compact hatch. Yes, of course, a little bit higher, but not too high. Overall quite positive, definitely. But not this kind of SUV style. And I mean, it's not bad. It's just depends, on what you really want. Seating position is somewhat good and cozy. Of course, as I said earlier, you don't feel as a tall person, you pretty much caged in a little bit, in this interior. So it's not the widest, tallest interior. And we know that from quite some Lexus vehicles, definitely. And also from Toyotas, that they're not necessarily primarily built for tall people. But I still get along pretty well. That's not a problem. And you have a very refined ride. That's, I think, another very important aspect. So it's decently fun, definitely, and it's very smooth. This ride overall is very smooth. I can also go to the sport mode here with this strange dial. Then the RPMs are going a little bit higher, and the steering is also a little bit stiffer. And let me show you some acceleration, 60 kilometers to 100. Let's go. That was it. So you see that was pretty decent. So enough acceleration definitely, but really heard the RPMs picking up high, and that's of course again the reason they're using those CVT automatics here, and all the e-CVT. So this is not directly a CVT. It's pretty complicated in the hybrid models then. So it's like working like a CVT, but not in a really technical sense. Yeah, I think I could talk 10 minutes about that. But the thing is, when you accelerate those ones here, it's not like you have this typical but more like this. Yeah, so that doesn't sound too good. But you know, the acceleration is there, it's quite okay. And when you drive those ones here in a smooth way, then it's totally fine, and you don't feel any transitions between gears or something. That's pretty cool then, actually. So overall, I think I'm totally fine with those automatic transmissions, because they give you also a calm and refined feeling. Again, when you keep it rather steady. In a normal mode, by the way, steering is a little bit softer, same in eco mode when I turn it backwards. Then RPMs are rather lower, throttle input is reduced, and so on, for more fuel savings. And driving it about 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, car is perfectly silent, so the noise insulation is very well done. Really like that. And this again contributes to this very refined feeling, you know, high quality materials, good noise insulation. The engine is very silent when you don't really, you know, turn it up. The steering is very, very soft. Yes, a little bit stiffer in the sports mode, but overall still, you know, you hardly need any strength input. At the same time, it's not completely without feeling, so it's still okay, you know, it's still got some precision, so can't argue about that. Now let's test here the roundabout. So here I have to turn the steering quite a lot. It's not that progressive, but the suspension still gives me somewhat good feedback. It's okay. Of course, the suspension is not very stiff or something. It's rather set on the soft tone. It's okay. I think it's a good setup overall for everyday driving. The main focus is definitely to deliver you a smooth comfort, and it definitely fits to the car. So this car definitely makes you relax more. There we hear it again. So going back to the normal, and yeah, it's pretty weird to put it like this here. It doesn't make any sense. Also, like an ergonomic way or to control while driving. So yeah, that's pretty much useless to put it right there. Brakes now. Yeah, they come quite well. It's a little bit degressive, I feel. Yeah. But still good feeling in the brakes. Also like that. Wow, what a silent ride. I mean, this is not a super big segment also. Of course, the car is not cheap at all, you know. So for a small car, it's very expensive, you know. So when you start about 40k or something for most versions, these in German prices, yeah, and then you're definitely not finished. So like towards like 50, 60 or something when you put extra equipment in it, and that's really, really expensive. But if you think about like in Mercedes GLA or Volvo XC40, you also get very expensive with those, you know, those small, compact crossovers. So yeah, they don't deliver so much car for the price you pay. Then again, you can better park in and out and so on if parking space and so on is limited. So you really have to think about that. But again, I think the main characteristic is everything feels so refined, you know? Silent, and you know, when you have the smooth transitions from accelerating and stuff, everything feels very, very refined. And that's in general what I like about the Lexus vehicles. And so in this respect, there's then no difference to the German premium manufacturers as for the refinement you feel. In some parts they are maybe even more refined. Of course, they are not set on the performance, on the, you know, levels, especially with the hybrid models, as the German manufacturers do. But then again, especially with the hybrid models, you can score really decent fuel consumption figures. That's pretty cool, definitely. So now indeed we are also fuel consumption wise right in the middle of what I said from the minimum maximum level. It's like between 6 and 10 liters. Now we are exactly at 8 liters, and that's including also a bigger acceleration. So yeah, again, it should be lower, but you know, this whole ride, how it's set out to be, also feels more like it should be a hybrid, you know, with transmission, the engine power, the same engine of course is being used, but just plus the electric motor and, you know, the soft steering setup and so on. So a very relaxed ride with this one here. That's what I think I like most with this vehicle. And again, this very relaxed ride would also fit very well to a hybrid. And You know, the hybrids are also somewhat of a unique selling point. So overall, I think I would really think about taking the hybrid. It's, you know, fun to have those electric moments, definitely. Not that this pure petrol engine would be bad or something. I also like driving the naturally aspirated engines singularly because they deliver such a linear power. You know, with the turbo, it's often you accelerate and you have like a moment before it sets in, then it sets in, then bam. And here with the naturally aspirated engines, same as with Mazda, for example, they have a very linear power output. Everything goes, you know, smooth in a linear way. So I really like that, as you know, as for the acceleration too. So overall, a very good ride, definitely. So suspension-wise, also everything, you know, really fits together. I think that's one of their main accomplishments, that all of the single element, you know, something where you have a car where all elements are set on, you know, one specific thing, and then one thing is maybe missing, or they set it on they have a different setup for one specific element which does not fit to the whole rest of the vehicle. And driving wise, this one here, you know, really gathers a whole very well painted picture. Yeah, besides of the infotainment system. And now to our conclusion for today with the Lexus UX. Yeah, you know, name badging aside, I think it's very unique in the front. It's very aggressive Lexus styling we also have seen with their, you know, other recent models. And so definitely very unique in this very segment. I think it's more a crossover, definitely. It doesn't sit too high. Also the driving feeling is more compact, car-ish, and, you know, a little bit higher. So I think crossover, I think, is the right term for that. The interior is very refined, I like it. And they also have enough non-animal seating choices, which are also high class and premium. So a very good choice as for that. Told you earlier about that. Space you got on the inside, yeah, you know, that's pretty limited. You don't feel too well in the front seat as a very tall person, but it's still okay. Then of course a little bit cramped in the rear and a very, very small trunk. So that's, I think, the main downside, that you don't have so much space on the interior. However, driving wise, it's very refined, very smooth, and this great noise insulation fits to the great choice of, you know, of the dashboard materials and so on. And steering feeling also, you know, soft but precise. Also the engine and transmission, everything is very silent if you keep it at low RPMs. So overall, it fits all together to a very smooth and calm driving experience. And as I already said in the driving part, there the hybrid drivetrain also somehow fits a little bit more to the car. Better fuel economy, and it also fits to the whole relaxing concept of this vehicle. So I think overall a pretty impressive car they put on here. Of course, with some minor drawbacks, as for example, you know, everything which we have in the room, beginning from B-pillar and to the very end.
This is the 2024 Lexus UX 300h, replacing the 250h, which was one of their best-selling models here in Europe. So, is it any different? Is it any better? And should you buy this over its European competitors? I'm AJ, you're watching Autogefühl, and let's dive right in. The first thing you'll notice is that the exterior design really hasn't changed. This sonic copper color is new for this model year, and I was speaking to the product designer who had come all the way from Tokyo yesterday at the press conference, and he said they had to make the logo a little bit bigger now because one of the updates that this version gets is new driver assistance systems. So in general, the same bumper. This is a very polarizing design with the nice spindle honeycomb structure in the middle, really gaping, almost like a gate to an estate. What do you guys think? I personally don't mind. I like that cars like this exist, giving people choices to really go crazy with their design. You have the Lexus signature. It almost looks like the L over here, similar to the logo. And then LED headlamps. You get different versions. We are testing a much more base model here today, and we'll talk more about the versions later on. The side profile as well. So many cuts and creases. It really is very anime, very ninja, very samurai. Even the shape of the wheel arches are so funky. These 18-inch wheels fill up the wheel arches pretty well. On camera, I know that in general it does look a little bit under-tired, as in the size of the wheels are a bit small. But in the flesh, trust me, it looks pretty proportional. I do like the Lexus wing mirrors. Really sleek, and right now they have also changed the colors to just be a glossy matte, or sorry, yeah, a glossy black design. Further along, you have strong shoulder line, a rising belt line, more creases here. And in this kind of a lighting, you really see that play of light here and shadow here. Really makes it very edgy. Contrast roof colors, depending on the option that you get. This being the F Sport design, so you get that contrast color. If you don't like this sonic copper color, here's an example of the more classic blue and the black. The urban crossover, the UX, is 4.5 meters or about 177 inches long. We'll take a look at how that translates to interior packaging once we're inside. But this is one of my favorite parts of the car. I love the three-dimensional fin for the rear lights. Sure, it hasn't changed, but you know, on a sunny day like this, when I'm enjoying the nature, I can put my water or my coffee right here. They've thought of everything, haven't they? Horizontal tail lamp, the new 300H badging, and if we look down at the bumper, it's very neat, simple, no fake exhaust tips. So thumbs up for that. We've established that not much has changed on the outside, but when you look under the hood, this is where the fun begins. The unique proposition of the Lexus UX as compared to, say, the BMW X1 or the GLA or even the Volvo XC30 is that this is a self-charging hybrid, whereas all those other ones are available as a plug-in hybrid. No, you still don't get a plug-in hybrid here, but this is the 5th gen strong hybrid from Lexus, which means that the battery is now a lithium-ion battery and not a nickel metal hydride. It's still pretty small, about 1 kilowatt hour, but the combined system output of this has increased by about 15 horsepower to 199 PS, which means faster acceleration, but also better efficiency. You get this as a front-wheel drive with the eCVT, but you also get the E4, which is what they call for the all-wheel drive version. And as you can imagine, that's just with an electric motor on the rear axle. There is no drive from this petrol hybrid engine to the rear. But I think the front-wheel drive version is the one to get, and we'll speak more about that once we're on the road. Let's take a look inside the trunk. I have the Autogefühl ruler of truth, and oh boy, not off to a great start. This is my cabin suitcase. As you can see, it could probably fit just another one here, so not a lot of space, a pretty high and narrow loading area. In fact, the overall volume is only about 433 liters. And then there's this partial shelf, which is for a Lexus. I think it should have been a little bit better quality. You can lower the floor down to liberate some more volume here. Below this, there are some additional cubby areas along with the emergency kit. In fact, there's some more cubbies over here as well if you wanted to keep, for example, your first aid kit, or not much more. I don't think you can fit a water bottle there either. And on the other side as well, there is a deeper cubby here, maybe to keep some sunglasses or caps or sports equipments maybe, but in general, not very wide or long. Here we go. Let's see. It's just about 74 centimeters in this length. That's about 28.5, roughly 29 inches. And if you really were to consider the height up to the parcel shelf, that's just about 45 centimeters or about 18 inches. So you cannot store much on its own in the trunk. You need to put the seats down, and thankfully they split in a 40-60 fashion, although you don't have switches at the back. And with the floor at the higher level, you do get a flat loading area. Here is the key fob, nice heavyweight, kind of looks like a lighter so you can show off. Oh yeah, I drive a Lexus. The door has a nice heavy feel to it. In fact, one of the things they've improved for this model year is the sound deadening. Better acoustic glass, and even things like this beading down here. They've paid a lot of attention to isolate the road and the rain noise from the cabin. This is the F Sport design, so not the full F Sport version, and that means you get a very monochromatic interior. You have other choices, and I personally would pick something with lighter colors. The material here is nice and soft, but this is a little bit harder, not terrible though. Cushioned, padded armrest, and some storage. Looking inside, yeah, very monochromatic once again, but you do have different options. In fact, you also get a full leather-free interior. There's also fabric seats, and you get the animal leather seats as an option. Let me get inside. Is it as cramped as it was in the trunk? Well, actually, here in the front, it's not too bad. Getting inside is a little bit better than a standard hatchback, but this is again a crossover, and even Lexus calls this a luxurious hatchback. So it's the nice hip to heel ratio means that it's more car-like to drive. The steering wheel is a bit traditional, a little bit old-fashioned, dare I say, but the padding is nice. It looks a lot thicker in the pictures, but when you hold it, it's not that fat. The talking points for the interior, however, are the new digital instruments and the new infotainment system. I have a lot more cool stuff to tell you about on the inside. First of all, they've even put more sound deadening here in the dashboard, and the materials are also nice. I just wish they were a little bit lighter in color. The glove box also has a pretty cool shelf. Now this probably caught your eye, and finally the UX has a much more modern touchscreen infotainment. This is the optional 12.3-inch touchscreen. There's also an 8-inch base version. You get a physical knob for the volume. The inbuilt navigation doesn't really have all the streets updated yet, so you can just mirror with wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. However, the navigation doesn't show up on the instruments. We'll talk about that in a minute. Air conditioning vents and physical buttons here for the air conditioning climatization. 2 zones in this version here. Really nice. An inductive charger without cooling, USB-C ports, cup holders with adapters, and in the previous version you had a big trackpad and another controller here, and I wish they could have utilized this space now for more storage. Like, it sounds a bit hollow. There's just these giant buttons for my seat and steering wheel heating, and I wish that there was more storage. It seems like a bit of a missed opportunity. Shift-by-wire here. Center armrest with more charging options. And being a Lexus, of course, you have your drive mode selector right here. And to be honest, it takes only about 5 minutes to get used to it. And I personally find myself changing in my car the driving mode very, very rarely. So I don't think this is an issue. It's easy to see which mode you're in. You don't have to look down to press the button. I actually like it. I know it's a bit of a controversial topic. What do you guys think? Similarly, on the other side, you have the traction control, which you also never really touch. The optional 12.3-inch digital instruments is really easy to read. You can also choose different views, including one with the inbuilt navigation, right? You can't use Apple CarPlay and navigation on that. Of course, there are new advancements for this model year for driver assistance systems, including a driver monitoring system, which contains an array of cameras right here, watching you the whole time. How do you feel about that? Okay, so the moment of truth. This is not a very large opening. The door also doesn't open beyond this angle. It's not 90 degrees. So putting in child seats in the back, not the best. Getting inside also not the best. There are ISOFIX points for the outside 2 seats, but this is the open flap kind of ISOFIX point, which means you're going to lose these caps. So not looking that great so far. Also, there is only one backseat pouch here, which of course for the driver's side, it's easy for the driver to reach down, put their hand in, but there isn't one on this side either. But I'm actually pleasantly surprised with the amount of space back here. It's not great, but I thought it was going to be much worse. This seat is set to my driving position. I'm 5'8" or about 1.7 meters roundabout. And yeah, I have decent knee room. I can also slide my feet under the front seats. If I put my head up, I have, a good amount of headroom. Black interior, not that large windows makes it feel really hemmed in, makes it feel really claustrophobic. I have air conditioning vents and USB charging ports down here, but this being the hybrid, the good thing is that the battery is actually below the rear bench, which means there isn't a large battery pack under here, and therefore the floor isn't raised. So I'm not sitting in a knees up position. So all things considered, the seat contour, the seat comfort, and the space is not as bad. It's just I feel like they could have executed some of these storage spaces a little bit better. So what's the UX like to drive? Let's start with the suspension. So we're out on some country roads here near Bordeaux in France, and it's a little bit on the firm side, but the plus point of that is that it's really composed around corners. In fact, they've also worked on the brake distribution between the front and the rear, but also side to side to counteract some of the body roll. And when you're turning in really steep and you're braking through the corner, this really helps stabilize the car. And I've seen that work fairly well in moderate driving conditions. The sound insulation also has really helped refine the interior experience of this car. It is raining now, so you can hear the patter of the raindrops, but that being said, road noise, even the water hitting the wheel arches, they've paid attention to try to minimize this sound, and it does help, for sure. This new hybrid system is also more powerful than before, which means that it's able to accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in about 8.1 seconds with the front-wheel drive version, as compared to, I think, about 8.5. So a little bit of an increment, not night and day, more like 6 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. But even the rear-wheel drive version is not too far off. It also takes about 7.9 seconds for 0 to 100. And I think that's something we can talk about. Do you really need the all-wheel drive? It's a lot more expensive. If you live in the snowy mountains of Switzerland or something like that, it definitely helps, I know. But this is more of an urban crossover. That's their positioning. And I think with the electric hybrid system for the front-wheel drive, it's able to deploy that torque in a much more controlled manner. Let's test the acceleration a little bit from 80 kilometers an hour. There's 100. The eCVT does drone, but to be honest, I think CVTs are quite fantastic. The droning sound people tend to associate with the rubber band effect is looked down upon, but this eCVT tries to suppress that sound quite a bit, also with the extra sound deadening in the bulkhead here. And in general, it ensures that the engine is in its most efficient power band, and at the same time, there is no loss of power. So the eCVT works really well. Acceleration is okay. The electric hybrid system also assists even up to speeds of 115 kilometers an hour, especially when you're going downhill, for example. It can run purely with the electric motor. So this combination and 199 horsepower, I think, is adequate for everyday use. This is not a sports car. It's not a hot hatch, so you shouldn't expect that it behaves like that. All right, let's talk a little bit about the assistance systems. So I'm going to turn on the cruise control now. I'm going at about 100, and I press the adaptive cruise control button on. And now the car is monitoring the distance with the car in front and also keeping me centered in the lane. This works pretty well, as with most systems that we see, but there's some pretty cool features here as well. It's also pretty good at recognizing if there's, for example, a cone on the side of the road, and it will try to divert you within your lane around that cone, for example. So especially useful on country roads. It's also pretty good at detecting motorcycles and pedestrians and cyclists and cars coming into your lane. So it's not a very binary kind of, I'm looking at my lane, I'm slowing it down just within this. It's a little bit more aware of its surroundings. In fact, even in the rear seats, when you open the door, it's looking to see if there's traffic coming from behind you, and it will give you an audible warning, so when you swing out your door, you don't accidentally hit a cyclist or another car. The lane centering also works very confidently, although it does require you to have a firm grip on the steering wheel and still interact with the steering. What I don't like so much, for example, is the traffic sign adapting the cruise control. So now we went from 100 to a 90. This system recognizes that, and it's giving me the audible warning that I'm going faster, but there is no one button for me to change the speed. I have to hold down and click, click, click to change it to the speed manually, and I wish that this was a bit more automated. So now again, it's from 90 to a 70. I have to hold and press it down to 70. So I wish that little detail was improved. But overall, there's also a driver alert or a driver awareness monitoring system. So if you're dozing off, it'll detect that. It'll give you an audible warning to try to wake you up. But if it realizes that you're not paying attention, then it can also put you to the side of the road and stop for you automatically. And now, if you know, there's a new European mandate that this traffic sign recognition should also give the driver an audible warning when they are going over the speed limit. And this is not very intrusive here in the UX. It's a very subtle bing and a bong here and there. But I think overall the system in general, in conjunction with the government, has to be a little bit improved. Oftentimes I see that there's contradictory inputs. The road sign might say a different speed because there's a construction going on, but the GPS, that's where the database is for the speed is stored, has a different speed that's not been updated, and the system doesn't really know what to do, and it confuses me as a driver. And then the binging and the bonging can be a bit annoying, but at least you can turn that down a bit, and it's not as bad as some of the other cars. We haven't been driving for too long today, and I've been resetting the trip meter now for the highway. So far, it's not that great. It's about 6.7 liters for 100 kilometers, but when you drive for longer distances and the system gets to use the electric mode often as well, then you will even see numbers. I've seen around 5.3, 5.4, which is, I would say, really good for an electric system. You also have an EV driving ratio, which shows you, okay, I've been spending 50% of the time since reset in electric mode only. Okay, now I'm in sport mode, going around this roundabout. Not bad. In the sport mode, you can definitely hear the engine a bit more, and being an eCVT, you hear it that much louder. But again, I think CVTs in general are a really ingenious mechanical device, and as a mechanically minded engineer, I really appreciate the linear power delivery that a CVT provides, and there's no break in the power. So in the sport mode, the engine is definitely at the forefront, more so than the electric motor, and 199 horsepower is actually a healthy amount. Throttle response also feels sharpened. In eco mode, it's a lot more dulled. The steering also feels heavier. So yeah, but it's a very subtle difference. It's again not night and day. It's 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m. kind of a difference. But body control is actually really nice. The car turns in really well. It's actually enjoyable to drive. The steering has decent feedback. Considering that this is an urban crossover, this is not a hot hatch, this is not something inherently designed to be a sporty car to drive, it definitely handles better than I expected. Mileage, of course, is still a strong suit, so even if you are enjoying throwing it around corners like this, you're still getting around 6 liters for 100 kilometers, even better so on longer drives. Yeah, and sufficient acceleration to keep you engaged. That electric motor means that there's also instant torque, and any gap that the engine has, the motor is filling in those gaps. Here, the rear axle electric motor for the all-wheel drive version might help a little bit, but the improvement is very subtle. So I would recommend that you try them out and see if you really feel a noticeable difference that you think you're going to use on a daily basis. I would say you probably won't. The seats don't have that much side bolstering, of course, this being the full leather-free interior. The seats are pretty good, but on the whole, it's a pretty fun car to drive if you don't push it too much. The base variant starts at around 44,000 euros. This F-Sport design is about 48,000 euros, but the all-wheel drive version is a whopping 63,000 euros. Should you be putting that kind of money down for the UX? Here's a few things to consider. If you want a hybrid but can't charge it, that means you can't get a plug-in hybrid, well, this strong hybrid is probably one of the best you can get. It's also very smart in terms of its driver assistance systems. It also rides and handles really well, really nice sound insulation on the interior. But its biggest downfall, I think, is the interior space. They should have done the packaging a little bit better. The rear seats and then the trunk is just not up there with its competitors.
So many fancy new cars out there, but what are people really buying? This year, the Toyota RAV4, still one of the best SUV bestsellers. Why is that actually? Let's find out together with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go here with all the details of the current model. And we have it here in a special version, the GR Sport. Wow, what a look here for the RAV4. Not only that it's like this okay, like normal practical car. No, it can also be really sporty. Look at that, this black mesh grille here. Also in the lower part, sporty accentuations. And it works very well with the contrast to the white exterior color. Modern daytime running lights. So I think they got a really nice rugged off-road look here for the RAV4. Usually it starts at 17-inch wheels. These ones here are 18-inch winter tires, but you can also get usually 19-inch then for the GR Sport model. Turning indicators in the front, pretty tiny, however, still fancy. And because they have this element underneath, it shines into that. And then again, I think the size is okay. Interesting, isn't it? Turning indicators in the rear, not so fancy. However, it's a nice signature here with the running light. And overall, the rear design is pretty cool, especially in the GR Sport. Look at that black contrast. And then we have this silver one right here. Once again, this mesh grille and no fake exhaust at all. So I really like it also from this rugged, clean rear design. 4.60 m or 181 inches is the length of the RAV4. Just right in that segment where it's not too big, but not too small. The VW Tiguan or the Hyundai Tucson or the Honda CR-V would be typical competitors. Here the GR Sport gets the black contrasting roof that fits the vehicle also pretty well, and another black contrast in the lower part here. And as I said, you can also get bigger wheels if you then stick with the summer tires, for example. This is the key fob, simple. And then you might think, oh, wait a minute, this is the remote for the independent heating or something. No, it's not. This one is an additional security token because even burglars love the RAV4. The Lexus RX and the Toyota RAV4 are among the most stolen vehicles in Europe. And that's why they have this additional security token. You cannot start the vehicle without it. It's a good thing that they do something against it because also insurance costs are rising for these vehicles. Yeah, but on the other hand, it's kind of like, clunky, then a little bit here in the pocket. Yeah, but you see, people love that vehicle, obviously also because of the reliability and so on. The RAV4 is a very reliable car. Rankings have more and more shown that. Then the door closing sound is not that special. That's nothing where Toyota pays special attention to. But here on the inside of the doors, nice leatherette covering. You can really see how it's also soft underneath. I really like that. Simple, however, more the equipment here for the doors and so on, and hard pack in the lower part. Also no covering here from the inside. Then GR Sport steering wheel, special with it version. Also contrast stitches on the inside. Real buttons at the steering wheel. New digital instruments with this update here now. And these GR Sport seats have microfiber on the inside. That's pretty fancy. Other than that, you also get fabric or leatherette then for the RAV4, depending on the market situation. And it's really nice from the comfort, also from the ergonomics, and enough space with 189 or 6'2". Really good also for tall adults. That's also why people appreciate the RAV4. It's comfortable, it's simple, straightforward. You exactly know what you're doing. Steering wheel, by the way, easily up and down, in and out. Manual control. Then we have a good view to these new digital instruments. They also switch according to the driving modes. Then that looks pretty fancy, doesn't it? We also have a head-up display that's projected into the windshield. And then when we take a look at the overview here with the soft touch leatherette, also soft touch on this top part. Ooh, and I love this here, this manual climate unit. It's really large. You can control it just while driving blindfolded. That's actually cool. And also here the vent strength. Everything easy and straightforward. Also here the seat heating. Nice switch, and also from the acoustic feedback, that's how it's supposed to be. New updated 10.5-inch infotainment system. This is here the Apple CarPlay integration, also works wireless. Android Auto is also available. And then here, this is then the normal main menu. Here you can, for example, see the energy flow, but they kept it actually pretty simple that mainly people will use here the hotkey for the CarPlay or the Android Auto integration, but you still have a manual volume jog here. and that's a good feedback also, so everything I need. Passenger side, there's a nice structure here on the inside of this cubby hole. Then the glove box is actually also dampened, that's nice. And then the middle console, I really like this large off-road like shifting lever, why not? And then you also have the drive mode selector, push for normal, right side for sport mode, for example. It also gives a nice feedback, so yeah, pretty cool. And here this then the trail button to set everything for off-road driving. In the front you have inductive charging pad, which you can activate or deactivate. USB-A charger. The cup holes are really deeply in there, and then they're also adaptive, but everything's actually very well built here. Then the leatherette cover for this one. This one could be a little bit more fixed, I would say. Underneath, even more of that off-road light structure, and underneath more space and 2 USB-C chargers. The rear mirror can also be flipped, and then you have the rear camera mirror when everything in the rear is maybe fully packed. Rear seating, here the rear doors. Oh, there's a nice leatherette cover also on the top part here. So I like that build quality. Hardback just in the lower part. This trim here even has seat heating for the rear seats. Wow. Then also the nice microfiber inserts on the rear seats. You can, by the way, put these rear bench here a little bit, a little bit more upright like this. Then you have more trunk or sit more upright, and then you can put it in the more laid back position. The middle seat here is also usable, so it is actually suitable for 5 tall adults. And here the rear legroom also fits into the front seats. Headroom like this with 189 or 6'2". Very comfortable indeed, and a lot of space. So that's also one of the reasons why it's so, so popular. Just not adaptive here, these cup holders, but I think we can live with that. The thing that is counting is the space and also really a good comfort. 2 USB-C chargers, by the way, now at the rear middle console. Trunk or boot here with the electric hatch, around 520 liters. And let's see, what's really special is the width here. This is like 120 in meters or 47 inches. That's really impressive, and the still same here, just a little bit narrower here. This is this rugged all-weather mat. You don't have to go for it. There's a fabric underneath, and here space for the charging cable if you have the plug-in hybrid version, and the normal length like 95 centimeters or 37 inches. So very well usable trunk. To fold the seats, you can reach over like this or then go around, so both is actually possible. Engines, 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, non-hybrid, like a North American market, then the hybrid, which is all over the place actually in all markets, front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, and then the plug-in hybrid version, also called Prime in the North American market, over 300 horsepower then system output. Rear electric motor to give you that all-wheel drive then in this case, and 6 seconds in the acceleration figure. That's 2 to 2.5 seconds quicker than the other version then for the normal inbuilt hybrid. We'll also see if that makes sense. The net battery capacity here is about 14.5 kilowatt hours. So you will get some 60-70 kilometers of daily real-world range, so around 30-40 miles. Charging flap, by the way, is not so cool, I would say. 6.6 kilowatt, so also not too quick. Yeah, but then again, it's also not a really large battery. You really have to think about if the plug-in hybrid makes sense. It rather makes sense in markets where there are governmental subsidies and so on. Other than that, the built-in hybrid will also be very efficient. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Toyota RAV4 Prime or plug-in hybrid. But everything I say will count for the hybrid and for the plug-in hybrid version, with some specifics here about the plug-in hybrid. So pure electric is 135 kilometers an hour, like 83 miles an hour. Then you can drive just on the electric mode here. The battery is of course bigger than with the inbuilt hybrid, but what is even more interesting is when I have it here kinda depleted, there still, is always like a buffer. And so even when I go to sports mode now and we do the acceleration, let's see if you can still get the whole boost. So here we'll start from 50 kilometers an hour and accelerate it out. Safety first. Let's go. Plop, that's 100. 120. Yeah, I mean, of course, it doesn't sound that great when you don't have like a real gearbox with different gears and so on. But it's surprisingly powerful here for a Toyota, because they usually don't focus on good acceleration. But here, this plug-in hybrid version still gives you that power from that buffer. I mean, in most situations, you will have more, like the full power still, even if you haven't freshly recharged, because it keeps this buffer, unless you do like, you know, like really some very extreme brake acceleration, like, you know, then maybe not, you know. So, but in most cases, it's still there, and it's actually fine. And I have tested it now for quite a while, and I have to say, with some plug-in hybrids, they don't really work like the inbuilt hybrids when the battery is depleted and you have quite high fuel consumption. But here it does work. So you can score some similar fuel economy, somewhat like 5 or even a little bit less than 5 liters on 100 kilometers. So that's a good 50 mpg US or even some 60 mpg UK, and that's of course amazing for a car at that size. Really well done. And that also counts for the inbuilt hybrid, because you can use it in the very same way. So when I lift my foot off the throttle, then it depends on, you know, what's the status of the engine and how much electric consumers are on the inside. You also have this energy meter where you can check it out. So sometimes when you lift your foot off the throttle directly, the EV mode goes on, sometimes not. It really depends then. And you can also induce it here with the EV mode, or you can also put the battery hold mode to recharge the battery while driving, but that's not really an efficient thing to do. Best is actually to leave the vehicle in the auto mode and let the vehicle do its thing. Here now at 120 kilometers an hour, so like 70 miles an hour, let's do the lane change here. Suspension is a good setting actually. So it is not unsporty, it's not uncomfortable. I think they found exactly the right spot here, equipped with 18-inch winter tires. If you would have the 19-inch summer tires here for the GR Sport, of course the ride would be a little bit stiffer. But it feels good here on the German Autobahn. The only thing, and you know, since we test a lot of German cars here, you're always asking me like, what is then the difference when I get the Toyota, for example? Yeah, it's not that silent on the motorway at higher speeds. So they don't pay the biggest attention to the noise insulation. Then again, they score better reliability figures, you know. So from the comfort, the seats are actually quite nice. Also with the microfiber insert here in the GR Sport. They hold you tight, yet at the same time they give you good comfort. I can very well imagine long mileage in this vehicle. The only thing that is somewhat annoying is when you're driving a little bit faster, then it's kind of noisy here. That I have to say. And of course, you know, even though the suspension is fine and the steering is also fine, so there's not a dead zone area, precise commands on the road. But the overall feeling of this vehicle, especially at higher speeds, when you then do a lane change, it's not that it would be much fun to drive, you know. So the agility and driving dynamics from the Germans, that is what they do better also in this segment here. Now let's put it to even more speed. Let's see if we can score top speed here as well. It's a little bit windy outside today. But nevertheless, yeah, getting quite noisy now. 180 is like 185, 186, you know, on the brakes. Then recuperation is setting in. Yeah, and the sound from the engine is of course not the most pleasant one, but still you feel very controlled and safe in that vehicle here. You know, lift my foot off the throttle and I'm in the EV mode, so engine is not running, and also the transitions here between the motorways. Here, when I steer it now, I have a good steering feeling, but it's not exactly fun to do it here, you know. It's not bad. I still enjoy driving it because I love driving cars, but this vehicle doesn't give you this fun agility feeling, you know. That is also not the focus of this vehicle. You just have to know that, you know. So even though it promises here GR Sport and so on, that's more the visual part. Yes, the suspension is a little bit stiffer in the setup here in the GR Sport. That is true. However, I don't feel that it would make a big difference. And also when you're driving over some bumps or so on, it's not unpleasant or so. So that's actually fine from that setup. Yeah, here, you know, when accelerating, it always sounds like the engine is a little bit struggling, but it also has to do with the transmission setup. Here we go. Lane change here. Yeah, I think you would rather enjoy driving some slower speeds and just enjoying the fuel economy, which is really great, and not racing this car out basically. By the way, if we switch back to the normal, we just push it here, and then again lifting my foot off the throttle. It's also a different visualization. Here in this case then, not the EV mode is on, a little bit too quick. So it always depends then. The electric moments you rather use in the city actually. So for example here, lift my foot over the throttle, EV mode when I'm at lower speeds, so like city traffic and so on, then you're often driving in the EV mode, even though when you use the plug-in hybrid with the almost depleted battery and use it like the inbuilt hybrid, most of the time in the city you are driving EV. So when I was doing some, city driving and so on, and there is this meter also in the instruments that tells you how's the percentage of the EV driving. And at this moment with motorway, it's like, even then it's like 1/4 of EV driving. Even, higher speed motorway, because sometimes you go over the throttle and so on. But in city traffic only, I had figures like 3/4 of the time, like 75% of the time, I was driving pure electric. And that's of course amazing. If you can recharge, that will of course make sense when you have the plug-in hybrid. Then of course you have 100% if you like. That always depends then on your driving profile and how and where you can recharge. But why is it so popular? Great fuel economy, especially then in the hybrid versions. Good price-performance ratio. It drives very well. Yes, it's not the most engaging drive, but it's also very reliable and has so much space here. Yeah, these are all the reasons why it's still one of the best sellers. This channel is about the reviews that you request, and you ask us to review the all-new Lexus NX. Let's go! Well, the question, how good is this new generation now? Thomas here with Autogefühl. You can see big Lexus logo, this grille here, sporty styling, huge indeed, vertical style in this case then here, and the LED daytime running light really slim, and of course also full LED lamps today, a black styling. The length at 4.66 m or 183 inches, just slightly longer than the previous generation, and once again styling was striking in the front. Here very elegant in the side profile, dividing in light and shadow, and then here dissolving in this kind of triangle. It's a really interesting design and coupe-like shape here at the side. 20-inch wheels are today's choice, and the F-Sport version would be standard with 20-inch wheels. Also in the F-Sport you get an adaptive suspension. That might be a reason to go for the F-Sport indeed. But what do you think about the design here so far? Tell me in the comments. Very interesting rear styling here. Most of the manufacturers go now with one light strip going all the way across. Here it's also going way wide, but here you have this split between the element here and then the middle one. I think it looks really beautiful. So overall also a very clean design here. No fake exhaust. Is this a fake exhaust graphic? Maybe it was derived from that original, but I think that's fine, so no job for the Autogefühl fake exhaust police for today. But overall I think the styling really great actually. This is the car key, slim and light actually, nothing special but nothing bad. Here these door handles, they are new and they do not move at all. There's like an area behind it which you can touch and then they open, but you see here they don't come towards you or something, and this is somewhat lacking haptical feedback, I think. So, and then door closing sound, it's really solid, and you can also see here the build quality, how everything is aligned very, very well. Inside of the doors is just slightly soft. My favorite element for today is here this matte open cell wood. Just listen to this. That's beautiful. And then here the all new interior. Let's begin with the steering wheel. Here you can see you do have real buttons on the steering wheel, for example for volume. And then you also have these that can be pressed, but they are touch at the same time. So you can press them, but you can also touch them. And you will soon see that this can be irritating at times. As for the seats, there are two different forms, either this one or the F-Sport seat, which would have more support here in this shoulder area. And I think I do recommend the F-Sport seats from my experience with Lexus so far, but they're both very good as for the ergonomics. And this seat here is available in animal skin leather or in Nulux or Tahara leatherette, animal friendly and also more sustainable. But how to differentiate? Well, here with the pattern. This pattern indicates it's animal skin, and the pattern that would go like in more vertical would be the animal free one. But indeed it took me a while to figure that one actually out. Here the NX, although we don't have it at this very vehicle, offers a vast amount of great Tahara or Nulux materials in black, white black combination, red, brown, bright, so all colors you can imagine. You just have to see like which combination and in which market what is being offered. It's really complex, you know, like things like, hey, when you pick the plug-in hybrid, then in the US you can do this, in the UK this, and in Germany this. It's really confusing. I wonder why they don't make it like, you know, more uniform. Would be easier for me and also for you. So just check the configurator in detail. Seating position, ergonomics is really good. Steering wheel, up and down, in and out. And you also have this effect that when you here turn off the vehicle, then seat goes backwards, steering wheel goes in. Yeah, turn the lights off. Okay, no problem. Sorry about that. And here when you activate it again, then steering wheel comes towards you, seat goes forward. And yes, always these beeping sounds, really, really annoying. But one thing is here, I'm not sure if you can already see it. This is the steering wheel all the way out, the whole column. And I wonder about that. Usually I would have the steering wheel like here and maybe it go a little bit further back with the seat to have a very comfortable position as 1.86 m or 6'1" guy. And I also have enough headroom here left. But that steering wheel is just so close to the dashboard, even in the widest position. And here, just look at that. When I put it all the way in here now, this is like I'm almost steering at the instruments. So I really wonder why they have just didn't make the steering column a little bit further, you know, just a little bit longer. And this is also really interesting, how to open the door from the inside. Just press it like this, you know, and then it goes open. And the manual release would be then the classic way, you know. This is like the manual release for emergency situations when the car doesn't have power or something, you're maybe trapped inside or so. So that goes against intuition a little bit, but after a while you get used to it a little bit and then just pressing it is also not too bad. Cockpit overview, really interesting. It stands out, this, you know, kind of like this attachment here. Either 10-inch screen or optional or in higher trims than the 14-inch screens, really like in-your-face screens, but there are also interesting elements that have been more or less kept. For example, you still have a AC dial here, this, you know, round dial. Have then the temperature in the middle. Reminds us a little bit of what Range Rover has been doing, but this is actually good then to be able to control that while driving in a quite easy way. When strength, however, then here in the infotainment system, this is here then the map, and you see it's actually quite responsive, so that's cool. So as for the infotainment software, also a big step forward here for Lexus. Look also here at the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto integration, wireless, by the way. This is once again, you know, really large indeed. And then you can also, you know, access some more climate functions here. Here, for example, the heated steering wheel. You can also set it to auto. To me, a little bit more complicated, definitely, than if you would just have like separate switches here. At least it's kind of big enough. And the sound system, you can also have here this, you know, manual volume control. This is not the Mark & Levinson sound system here, but already this one we have in here is actually quite decent. So yeah, really like the sound. So they have really good sound systems there, definitely. So here, one more look. Here, this is then while driving, for example. I will activate it while driving, where you can see the energy flow here of the plug-in hybrid drive system. And you would also have a web browser here when you have a Wi-Fi connection, for example. Here, you know, when you have normal Bluetooth connection, that would also be possible. And you can also have more car view, like you know, like a charging schedule. You can put in something. So again, big step forward infotainment system wise. But I do miss some of the classic Lexus features that we have more, you know, classic knobs and so on. Rear view camera has, yeah, an okay resolution, but the display is also very big, you have to say. And what else? Here it's not a live view, but then like kind of like from past image, it builds up a transparent car drone view, so to speak. But you've seen that it kind of builds up. It's not then like what you see in the middle is not live, but from the from the past actions, so to speak. Head-up display is always helpful, so a nice option. But the strange thing is here, you have so many controls, and I'm doing that from the steering wheel. And the strange thing that the control on the steering wheel is controlling stuff in the head-up display somewhat. It also switches, then I can also adjust the height here. But then again here, when I'm doing like this right and left, at this moment, contents in the instruments change and not in the head-up display for real. And this is so confusing. So here now, when I press right and left, then I change the contents here. When I press up and down, I don't change contents in the instruments, but I adjust the height of the head-up display. So yeah, I really don't get it. But instruments are also clear to read. Here the speed is what you need. Left side would be then for the electric, for what's battery left, and right side then where I still have that fuel. Here, by the way, eco mode, normal mode, sport mode. The sport mode has then this red appearance. And here once again I can press. That's actually okay. But then also when I just do like this, this also changes things. So you can accidentally activate something by just holding your finger here. And yeah, ooh, lovely. Not only this lens flare, but I mean here, this cubby hole here, slides down so smooth. I love these details. Here the back mirror has this special effect that when you turn like this, then it becomes a camera image that can be quite good when you, for example, load all the trunk like to the very top and you can't see anything anymore. No, I'm not saying you can't see. And then you can activate the camera image and can still see. And here in the lower area, you do have a drive mode controller for sport or eco driving. Normal, press it, it adjusts a little bit, the power input from the throttle. However, most of the time you're already busy with these different hybrid driving modes, so I would just leave it in normal and that's it. USB-C and USB-A chargers, and then there's here an inductive charging pad for your phone. The Apple CarPlay or Android Auto connection works wirelessly. Shifting lever is still somewhat complicated because here, for reverse, you still have this kind of step effect, and here also for the drive mode. Why did they do it that way? And here you go actually through like 1 or 2 modes, 1, 2, 3 modes on this button, how they work and how they differ, explaining you while driving. Cup holders are adaptive right here, and yeah, this is the Lexus Hygiene car hand gel supplier. They always put in with the test vehicles now. Yeah, I hope this time soon passes. Here, this armrest goes either here or here, so in both ways, and then more space underneath. We have a beautiful brown ceiling here today, by the way. The material at the inside of the doors is not super plush, but at least they use the same one in the rear and in the front, so it's also somewhat soft touch, and also the nice matte wood here at the inside of the doors. Seating position in the rear, when tall drivers are here, you can see you fit in with at least 4 tall adults, and headroom wise also no problem for me. It's also fairly comfortable once again here. And Isofix at the outside part. Let's see, here we have cup holders and they are also adaptive. And then in the middle part, can we sit here? Yeah, it's actually also fairly comfortable and soft. And in this middle part here, it's not too high, and you have 2 USB-C chargers and also seat heating if you pick that option. Trunk area around 550 liters. Here the width is 1 meter or 40 inches. Here going further in, here at the very beginning it's a little bit wider, and the standard length normal truck is about 95 centimeters or 37 inches. Here in the front you do have space for the charging cable here in that plug-in hybrid version, so that's coming quite handy. You can see here luggage fits in easily. Also then here the cabin trolley in a vertical way. Let's put that out actually, and then we can see I already folded one of the half. This is like this wobbly cover. You can of course remove that. You can also reach over that slightly like this, and then can fold the seats from here. But yeah, probably easier to do it than from the rear area. And here the total length to the seat as I would be driving is about 1 meters 80 or 70 inches. NX 450H Plus. Well, we know H is for the hybrids, but H Plus? What about that? engines, it's all about the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, naturally aspirated, no turbos, and then either as a pure combustion engine, as an inbuilt hybrid, or today here as the plug-in hybrid version. The hybrids get the H after the name. This one here, the H Plus, signalizing this as the PHEV drivetrain with an 18 kilowatt hour battery. Oh, and have you seen? It's being held up by gas struts. Nice. And if you have all-wheel drive model, like also here the plug-in hybrid, there's an additional electric motor at the rear. So in this case then, combustion engine front, plus an electric motor in the front, plus another electric motor in the rear. This is Thomas's driving lounge here with the Lexus NX, all new generation plug-in hybrid drivetrain, so the most powerful one. Will it also face the German Autobahn test? Yes, of course. From 45 kilometers an hour, let's go. $100. 150. Now wind noise picking up. 170. 180. Should actually go 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles per hour max, but you see here we take some time to reach that. Now the wind noise is actually quite loud. Of course also that sound from the engine doesn't sound too good. That's really aspirated engine, and then also this eCVT they're using. 195 we are reaching max. Suspension shakes up notably, not feeling too safe. So in the F-Sport version where you have the adaptive suspension, that would be better actually, so I can recommend that if you're rather a fast driver. Here, I mean, it still feels okay, you know, but let's say it doesn't feel best in really fast driving. 120 kilometers an hour, 70 miles an hour is a very good motorway speed, then also the noise insulation is fine actually. But if you compare to the previous generation, optimization from the chassis, so already the base versions feels a little bit sportier. Steering feeling here is very light actually, but not too indirect, so overall likable. But then again, well, I said in the interior part, I really would like a seating position here together with that steering wheel where it just comes more outward. I always feel like, you know, it's just too close to the dashboard here. That's a very strange feeling indeed. I also put you in here this special gauge where you can follow what's being done here at the moment here. Combustion engine is powering the front wheels and the front electric motor. And then there's also here either energy from the battery or it goes to the battery depending on how I have the throttle. If I leave the throttle, power goes back to the energy. Power goes back to the battery. Energy goes back to the battery. So it's always like back and forth, and when I re-hit throttle, then we also get power from that rear electric motor, which is additional when you have an all-wheel drive version. It's pretty distracting to look at it while driving. You can maybe do that if you see it here, like, you know, at the right side. But for me, it's really distracting. But it's interesting to see what the system is doing. And there are also so many driving modes. It gets a little bit complicated, I have to say. So either, and probably you will leave that all the time in, just the auto mode, and then the car decides on its own when to use the electric mode, when not to. You can then hit the button and go to the EV only mode when the battery is full enough actually. Then the button above that is actually, you can go into the HV mode. That then kinda enables a similar hybrid driving feeling, you know, from the inbuilt hybrid system at Toyota and Lexus. Then with this button you can also switch to the usual EV mode, the EV only mode, and when you hold it, this button, then you can go to the charging mode. Then the combustion engine is charging the battery actually. That is, here you hit, now it gets activated and it's charging the battery. This is not efficient at all, but it might be needed for situations where you have like a city with an emission zone. You're only allowed to drive there all electric. Then you charge, you know, on the countryside road or something, and then you're able to. So they always implement the system that you can theoretically do that, but it's not really efficient. That's the thing. And you know, like an average fuel consumption for a plug-in hybrid is always a very tricky thing to do. there is no reliable, amount for that actually. So, because it always depends on how much do you charge, So it can be everything from 0 liters to 9 liters per 100 kilometers, anything basically, That's the tricky thing also then for me as a reviewer when driving plug-in hybrid vehicles, definitely. It's easier when you have the inbuilt hybrids and you can say, oh, there's good fuel economy here and there. Of course here, when you do not charge this car externally, then you also can more or less drive like with the normal hybrid system, also here in this special driving mode, because you still have some recuperation moments and you can use this buffer then when starting up. Of course, this is more meant to be that you charge it from the outside and then have all electric driving to somewhat 50 kilometers, 30 miles, pure electric driving. And then when it's empty, then you go for a combustion engine, or when you go on a longer trip. Here, when you have this charging mode activated, you also hear that the engine is definitely louder overall. So not really a thing that is to be recommended, so to speak. So let's deactivate it. There we go. And here in EV mode, that sounds way better, right? So when I'm just rolling here, pure EV mode, really nice and silent. But always when you hit the throttle completely, then the combustion engine also is being activated. Or you can just put it into the auto mode and the car then once again decides for itself. As for cruise control and assistance systems, here let's put the adaptive cruise control to on, and then we can increase or decrease the speed right here. And now also the active lane keeping assist is activated. Let's check it out. Check it out, y'all. So in here, slight bend so far. Look at the steering wheel also. I'm not steering it at the moment, but very smooth how this bend is being kept. So there's no like a hectic reaction from the steering wheel or something. It's actually quite decent. Well, gladly we're alone in this Autobahn tunnel here at the moment. But if there would be someone coming from behind, there's also a blind spot monitor, by the way, which is a very helpful feature, definitely. Clear view to the digital instruments, definitely, and that huge screen, you can also see it here in the tunnel. Once again, we can go a little bit fast, accelerate here, see here the pin down, and then the engine is getting activated. And let's keep it here now at 150. Noise insulation here is still quite decent. So we've heard louder ones, we've heard more silent ones, definitely. Oh, and here is still, when I'm not in the cruise control mode, but just on the throttle myself, the active lane keeping assist stays activated. That's interesting. So that's not always the case. The question is if that's a good thing or not. But you can also deactivate it here with a button on the steering wheel if you rather want to steer than yourself. So that's good that we can deactivate it right here. And I already gave you a glimpse of information of that in the interior part. How to control the digital instruments and the head-up display, to me, that's really a nightmare. So especially that these fields are kind of like touch sensitive. At the same time, you can press them and it's mixing it completely. And when you do like just this, I've done it like 3 different things now, just by touching it here. And I'm not even sure what I did. And I've 10 years experience of a car reviewer and have reviewed like 2,000 vehicles or something at this point. And now imagine like a customer who has maybe driven like one single car for 15 years and then gets into this vehicle and is like, whoa, can you just drive please? And that's more and more a huge problem with a lot of new vehicles we have. I'm not sure where this is going to. So I really appreciate when manufacturers keep it simple as well. New technologies, yes, especially for safety and what else? For driving, fun and whatever is great. We'll appreciate new technologies. We all love new technologies, but they're also there to make life easier, safer and better and not more complicated. That's my point, So I'm not the super old school guy, well, sometimes in some cases yet, but I'm not old school for being old school. Old school in a way of, hey, it's cool that I can still turn a climate knob here because then I can adjust the temperature just, in a more easy way. But here, for example, like the classic thing is I can activate the cruise control here, but at the same time, the same button here, at some point, here when I press this button, and now the same button here puts the head-up display up and down, but right and left control something in the instruments. And you think like, how is my brain supposed to cope with that? I mean, even if I'm saying that, I still don't really understand what it's doing. So this is really a missed chance. I really love the recent Lexus vehicles we had, like the RX and the LS. No, we didn't have the LS yet, the RX and the ES. And they are so easy to control because you have them like this separate button for the heated steering wheel and so on. Here, I mean, it is more or less easily accessible, but still I have to put it here, the touchscreen for heated seat and also the heated steering wheel. Yeah, but especially like these features we were loving about the Lexus vehicles, and they were actually, I hit the brakes here now, won't cross the light on red. So we love these features about the Lexus vehicles, and they kind of set themselves apart, especially now like to new Mercedes vehicles and so on. Now they're gone here in the NX. So, and I still haven't figured a way out to reset the fuel economy, like to do that, like the reset average. And I've been searching for like an hour now or something. So yeah, this really speaks against the user interface of this vehicle, although it looks really fancy. And it drives quite well actually. Turning indicator, sound we have heard better actually. Here now, interesting. Let's put it into the, yeah, okay, so it's always the thing like which mode is available depending on how low or full the battery is. But let's see, when I accelerate now here, you know, traffic light soon jumps to green, and accelerate here in the corner. Electric, combustion engine, out of the corner, smooth with that steering wheel. But sound-wise, of course, you don't have the best feedback, so to speak. Yeah, but this is the thing also why the plug-in hybrids or the hybrids can save fuel, because like in this first 1 or 2 seconds, you get the electric boost first, and you know this first drive is something that also consumes a lot of fuel, for example, and that's the thing then why this can still be somewhat fuel saving overall, definitely. The driving comfort actually, the seat ergonomics, really good, we know that from Lexus. In the ES I found that the F-Sport seats are even better, so we do not have the F-Sport seats here. So maybe I would even try to go for an F-Sport version to have the sportier ergonomics, which not necessarily need to be less comfortable, but even more comfortable. And of course then pay attention that you can get the, either the Tahara or Nulux, depending on how it's named on your market. So the high-grade leatherette seats to be more animal friendly and more sustainable. This is then also, of course, more fitting to the vehicle, and that material, we've seen that also in the ES F-Sport, that material is just awesome, really, really awesome. So if you ask me, the previous NX, I mean here you get more fancy stuff, definitely. You have this, new touchscreen thing and have everything bigger. It looks more modern, noise insulation a little bit more improved. Chassis from a riding rigidity and so on. So here also that back mirror, that they can have the camera when like everything is packed fully in the trunk. Definitely the more modern impression. But we are seeing now the things that I especially can say about all new Mercedes vehicles, that the new generations are way harder to control than the previous versions. And then imagine like customers who are even, let's say less tech savvy.
Sorry, I'm having trouble understanding you.
And I'm having trouble understanding you. Yeah. What activated the voice activation now? I'm not even sure. And I mean, I haven't staged that. You could say that, hey, Thomas, you staged that, right? But definitely, once again, we see what we see with the all-new Mercedes, just harder from the user interface. And sometimes you have these frustrating situations that you say like, I'm not sure what I've just done here. And it's so sad because this vehicle still delivers a great luxury experience. You know, the high build quality, the great reliability that this Lexus always standing for. We also have a great seating comfort. Suspension is also fine, even though we don't have the adaptive suspension here. It will be even better with the adaptive suspension, so that's also another reason to go for the F Sport actually. So it's still a great mid-size luxury SUV, no doubt. But to me, really, this more complicated user interface is somehow interfering with the, just getting into the vehicle and enjoying it. You know that feeling? Some vehicles are just well built and everything is fine, and you get into the vehicle and you immediately understand how you can do this, and this. And then you just start driving and just relax, enjoy the drive and don't care so much about what the car is doing and so on. But here there's always, when I do the next step, I always have to think about, wait a minute, how do I get there? Yeah, of course, these things will be better when this is your primary vehicle and you drive it for a longer period of time. It will get easier, but it doesn't make it good, The car is well designed also from the user interface when you can get in the car and immediately understand everything. Yeah, that's the thing. Here, by the way, hybrid or plug-in hybrid drivetrain. This is where the advantages, of course, once again begin when I'm driving downhill for a longer period of time. All silence, combustion engine off, and I'm also gaining back the energy. This is, of course, where I can have more efficiency gains. And once again, such a relieving feeling here, driving all silent. And I wonder, we have the UX, which is all electric. Shouldn't they have launched the all-new NX pure electric as well? Maybe even at first hand? That would have been something, right? Yeah. So what do you think? Still, good driving experience here. You do not get the sportiest ride from that. This will also once again be better in the F Sport with the adaptive suspension. Still very well built, and the reliability is the thing that still speaks for it. So overall, very interesting driving experience. Yeah, but once again, the user interface here, not too happy with that overall. By the way, you can adjust here the gears, so to speak. This will basically boost the RPM. So when you want to have like an either spontaneous acceleration, or if you're driving downhill for such a long time that you maybe even need engine brakes, so to speak. But here with the plug-in hybrid, of course, this is not the biggest effect, because when you have this PHEV drivetrain here, you can gain back so much energy when you're driving downhill, and also for a longer period of time. In this case, you would not need this feature actually.
And now to our conclusion for today. Which one would I go for? Which one would you go for? And I have to say, in this case, it is very market or country specific. First of all, in general, Toyota versus Lexus. So usually the Lexus sister or brother models, they use a little bit more insulation and dampening materials. For example, the ride is a little bit softer and so on. They pay a little bit more attention to interior refinement, so these are the main differences, I would say. The thing is, as for the main reliability, they are not major differences, because both Toyota and Lexus always score very good reliability. Specifically to the car models, the Toyota Yaris Cross versus the LBX, here I would on the one hand take the LBX because it's completely animal free, which is very important to me. So looking more into the future, of course, or do you have to say looking into the present? Then again, there is an extra price for the LBX, which is hardly justifying it, and the Toyota Yaris Cross with the higher trim kinda always gets very, very close to the LBX. So here, as for the price performance and keeping it rather low in price, a mid-trim Toyota Yaris Cross is already doing a great job, and even as a tall person you can drive it in the front. In general, the cheapest car here, which already offers the most space, is the Toyota Corolla Cross, but it really depends on, for example, in the US you get it as a base or a low trim version. However, in the European Union, so in the EU, you only get it rather high trimmed, and then it's also more expensive. The Toyota C-HR and the Lexus UX, they both have the problem that they don't have too much space on the inside. They are more or less design objects, if you know what I mean. Toyota RAV4 and Lexus NX, they are of course here in this comparison the biggest vehicles and therefore also give you somewhat the most sophisticated ride. However, the Toyota RAV4 is basically a no-brainer on the Northern American market because in comparison to everything else, the RAV4 in the low trims is so extremely cheap, just over $30,000 in the base price, that for all the US customers, it's no wonder that it's one of the most successful vehicles right there. Then again, the extra price in comparison to the RAV4, of course, is not that well to justify in relation. So on the US market, I would stick with the Toyota RAV4 as a choice. On the European market, I would maybe think about the Toyota Yaris Cross to have a very small and city-proven SUV, but already to get a good reliability and have some nice features inside the vehicle. And again, if price is nothing to consider, then going with the Lexus NX to have the best luxury experience, and they also have these nice Lexus New Lux seats which are animal free and already give you very good comfort. So these are my choices for today, really market specific and also depending on how much money you want to invest. Which one would you go for? Tell me in the comments and join us for more comparison reviews.